Yeah.
Like I don't want to.
Yeah.
Like I really want it to be
It's gonna be.
helpful for
Listen.
someone, not.
It's the sick show. It's the sick
That's
show.
not
It's the
nice.
sick show.
Is that good enough? Quit shaking.
I know.
Look, I want you to relax, man. Check this out. That'll relax you.
Oh God, I have to get my
Look at
glasses
those
back
guys.
out. I just put them up. Oh my gosh.
Look at those
thanks,
guys.
man. I listened to your one with AC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a good time catching up. We hadn't
Oh.
sit down and talked in a long time.
Holy cow. What is Brownie doing right? He's like out in, is he out in
Somewhere around Arizona.
Arizona?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like one day when I'm traveling, I'm going to run into him and it's going to be like so much fun.
I
Because
know.
it'll be so random.
I know.
Kevin
Crazy.
still looks exactly like that.
Right? So crazy.
He should Anne should make like a button with this picture on it. That snarky ass look on his face. And he should have to wear it.
That's
like,
so good.
As the.
I
when
wonder.
he is the cop. Like, yeah.
I really
right.
wonder if my mom had that picture somewhere, and I just haven't found it yet. And she kept all those. She would go up to the news times to get the pictures.
Brunden. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have one of those in Sharpsville, like Troy Central, where my kids go to school. They have a teen, like teen blast is what they call it, but it's like an area. Yeah. It's kind of I don't know if managed or run, but there's people from the churches that kind of support it, and it's pretty awesome. But I remember that. Didn't we have a comedian come? Like, didn't we have?
I don't
or was
remember.
it just
that.
dances?
It was just dances. At least I didn't. The other guys, when I went away to Ball State there for a minute, and oh my gosh, what's his name? Carl Hoppy. Carl and a crew of guys that age took it over, and they may have.
Oh,
but,
that's awesome.
yeah. Yeah. So,
I feel like I'm so far away from it.
Well,
I could just be chill.
You know, you'll be surprised how closed in it becomes here real quick. So, you got your microphone. Pull your microphone over that way.
Oh my God.
And then.
See, like you just feel this responsibility to have something worthy to say.
My show's so big time.
It is.
Look, we're gonna act like we're. There. Just chill that down a little bit.
It is, no, seriously. I am such a big fan because I love the premise that you started it with, to like have your voice out there.
Sure.
For your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids, and I think that's awesome. And then you have these people that we knew from school, and they're like amazing adults.
And it blows me away. So grab your headphones.
Oh,
we're going to do
this is quite the set.
You got to get the full experience, lady.
This is.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It's like nothing's happening outside of the conversation.
Corby Roberson.
Oh man.
I love that girl. Okay, we swam together, and I'm telling you, I have vivid memories of her, like when we were in high school and swimming and stuff. I'm listening to her podcast. I'm like, that's not Corby's voice, because when you look at someone talking to you, you hear a different sound than if you don't see it. Is that crazy?
It's not. It is, but it's not, because I guess I experienced it when I started singing in my band. I hated my voice. Like I was like, that's not me.
Yeah.
And then, I've recorded when I worked for JD Byrider. I was doing the radio spots. So I would go down to the radio station and do the 30s and 60s and the hard sells, and I'd hear myself talking on the radio, and I'm like, that's me. So I guess I've just become accustomed to it, but I always wondered if,
I think that I teach some communication stuff now. I teach a lot of leadership classes, and we have been teaching lately a lot about communication, not just oral communication, but there's verbal and then that nonverbal.
That nonverbal is so powerful.
Yeah. And I think that when you used to, back in the day when we used to record our voice message or our answer machine, and you think, that's
not
what
me.
I sound like?
That's not me.
But then when you see someone, that's all I kept thinking the whole time. I loved Corby's podcast and I loved everything she had to say. And then I kept thinking, is that Corby's voice? Like, that's not what I remember.
I can't wait to have her back. We have
Oh,
there's about 4 spinoffs we've talked about
yeah.
with just that one conversation we
Oh,
had
yeah.
that we could really get in depth in, and I think it'd be really powerful. The hardest part about this is that it will an hour will pass and you'll be like, we've been talking for an hour. How's that happen?
Oh, I could talk all day. I could.
And when I reached out to you, it was just listen. I have so much respect for you, and you. I hesitate to say anybody is a trailblazer, but in the line of work you're in manufacturing,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of women in leadership,
Yeah.
and you see that much more than I do, obviously. But I remember as a young man, I was going to work at the factory here in town, and one of my supervisors, she was, Holmes was her last name, Carol Holmes. God, I hope it's Carol. I'm gonna feel terrible. I'm sorry if it's not, but I just remember how strong she was, and but respectful, and she cared about the relationship with her
Mm,
employees,
mm.
and that's something I think I didn't. I don't know that I ever got from men,
Oh, yeah.
and as I've grown and got older and a better understanding of our nature as men and women and our culture, obviously,
Yeah.
um, I've grown to better understand why the nurturing piece of it and everything
Mhm.
else. But I thought that was really interesting as I've gone through, my leadership training and positions I've held and opportunities to serve that I've had. Always thought it was interesting. I focused on the relationship at every step of the way. That was always my first focus. And there are times when I thought, man, I'm lacking in other areas. I really need to focus on that. But there's so many mixed schools of thought on that where it's lean on your strengths, build your
Mhm.
strengths, and
Mhm.
your weaknesses will
Mm.
develop, along with
Oh
it.
my God, we could talk all
There's
night about this.
there's others that talk about, recognize your
Yeah.
strengths, develop your
Yeah.
weaknesses
Yeah.
to make you a more rounded
Yeah.
leader. I realized for me that I understood the relationship component so well, I was just going to run with it. And I stopped,
Growing in the other aspects.
I don't know that I stopped growing. I think they did come with it, but I stopped focusing on on the things I lacked.
Oh, being intentional.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
we
I
teach
was,
that. So we do a lot of personality tests.
oh
I'm
yeah,
a fan because I think you can learn about yourself, and that's
so much.
number one. If you're
Yeah.
want to be a leader, going to be a leader, or are a leader,
And Corby talked
you
about that,
you
doing that with her
better
kids. And
you better learn about yourself
yeah,
first, and then you can learn what is natural, what comes natural to you, and what you have to be intentional about.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, because nobody's perfect for any spot. I mean, the world and life changes. I mean, so I started with I work at Chrysler, Stellantis. It's been 5 companies since I worked there. This will be yeah, I'm almost 29 years.
Good
I
grief.
know they're sending me stuff about retirement, and I'm like, oh, I'm old. What? Like what?
20, I'm sitting here thinking, how the hell?
I know.
29 years.
Well, we had 30. We just had our 35th
You may
reunion.
have. I was just hosting it.
You, we were there together. Yeah. You know what? I don't age. I celebrate
Oh
everything
man.
because my mom died when she was barely 54.
Oh man, I didn't realize she was
Yeah,
that young.
barely 54. And I just feel like after that, I don't worry about age. I'm like
Yeah,
every year is a
we're
celebration. I
running.
earned every wrinkle. I earned every brown spot on I mean, like um, every pound, every everything. Just I feel good about it, like
Yeah.
it's an accomplishment. So I don't. I mean, I make jokes about, holy cow, I'm 50. I tell my dad. So my dad would be like, Lori, like you're gonna be 50. I'm like, Dad, you have a 50-year-old kid. Like, you know, let's put this into perspective. But anyway, yeah, I think nobody fits so in one. And if you have a 29-year career so far, like I've had, I'm not anything like what I was. I mean, I have I don't know. I'm very flexible. Like my strength in leadership is that I can adapt really easily. I've been very intentional about growing those
Hmm.
areas that I like and practicing them, and so that I can try to just adapt to different situations. But I certainly didn't start off that way. Oh man,
Sure.
I didn't start.
Sure.
Yeah, when I started, so it was 96. It was right after I graduated college. Well, I did another job for a few months and that didn't work out. But um, so I started and I worked at the casting plant in Kokomo, and there was 1,350 people that worked there, and I was girl number six. Number six
At the time or over time?
at that time.
Okay.
When I hired in, and
Gotcha.
I was 21 years old.
Was that intimidating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, you worked at a factory. So
Yeah.
when I worked there,
And we're not talking about 2020 either.
no,
We're talking
no,
about
and it's a foundry. I mean, where
yeah.
I worked was, we have molten aluminum come in
Yep.
and we cast the parts. Um, yeah, but a lot of the people, a lot of the workers were like my dad or grandpa's age. A lot
Hmm.
of them saw me as like their granddaughter.
Hmm.
And sometimes that was helpful,
Sure.
and sometimes it was not.
Yeah.
No little girl's gonna tell me what to do.
What was your position at the time?
So I hired in as the chemist.
Okay.
So I graduated with a chemistry degree, and somebody from Hartford City actually worked in the other plant, and they had signs up that said, that they had a job open and they were looking for somebody with a chemistry degree. He called my dad and said, "Your daughter's the only person I ever knew that ever got a chemistry degree." And they called me, and I went for an interview, and there you go.
Wow.
So I worked in the lab. We did a lot of. I have a very tiny head, so it's
I have a huge head.
falling
So,
off of my the
maybe.
headphones. um, so yeah, I worked in the metallurgical lab. We did all kinds of steel testing and all kinds of fluid quality checks and
Hmm.
aluminum, everything, X-rays. We did all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
And then 3 years later, I took on my first gig as a supervisor. Not even 25 years old.
Wow.
Let me tell you, if you ask any of those people, if you say my name, they'd just be like, "She's a bitch." I mean, because I was this young girl just learning, and they looked at me like, number one, you're a girl,
Hmm.
and number two, you're like my granddaughter's age. You don't know anything. Who are you to tell me? So like I had to kind of push back with a more authoritative style of leadership that I didn't really earn. I was
Sure.
just, my title says I'm in charge of you, and that's really a crappy way to lead. But I didn't really know any better at the time,
Yeah.
and I didn't have enough experience.
Sure.
You know,
What was the tools you had?
yeah,
It was.
yeah, yeah. People that I always ask, like, "Oh yeah, my dad knows you," or something like that, and I'm like,
Mm.
it's a 50-50 shot whether he thinks I'm great or he thinks I'm awful, because what year was that? But it's like anything, you got to learn.
That's right.
And I think
Yeah.
I say all the time, I feel for the people I had to make mistakes on. I
Yeah.
learned leadership by mistakes trying to lead you, and but
Yeah.
that's just,
Yeah.
I think that's the way it is for me, at least.
It
But
is. I, I I was wondering about something before we started recording. I was thinking about my first year as an assistant principal,
mm,
and I can remember. I can remember my principal and I. It was his first principal job. It was my first job as an assistant, um, and we got to know each other over about a 2 week period. So here I am going in fresh, and the tools I had were just my life experience. I mean, I was only a teacher for 5 years, so it wasn't like I'm going in there with vast amounts of
mhm,
teaching knowledge. I knew full aware that there are like the teachers that I led in uh, each of the buildings I was in were far superior teachers than I ever was. For the most part. There were a few where I thought, okay,
Yeah.
they've
Yeah.
got something to learn from me. But for the most part, and even those, I was learning from them because I mean,
Yeah.
God, we all had so many styles. But I remember maybe week two, well, day one, the kids got into the building, they got to class. I did the announcements, and I got an email from like 5 teachers going, "Thank you for doing the pledge." I was like,
Don't you do that all the time?
I thought so. And I did a moment of silence. It was thanks for
Oh,
doing the pledge in a
nice.
moment of silence. And I thought, isn't, doesn't, why didn't, okay.
Did I do
Hey,
something? What?
every day,
You're welcome.
it's going to be here every day, you know? And I looked at Dan and I'm like, oh, I got my first thank you email. And then about 2 weeks in, I remember looking at him. It was everybody had left. Things had gone pretty smooth for the most part. We had some hiccups here and there, growing pains. But about 2 weeks in, I remember standing in the hallway with him and going, I don't have a freaking clue what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, me either. And we just sit down and had this talk about imposter syndrome
Mm-hmm.
and, just this idea that are we really doing this? Are we really qualified to do this? And I wonder that for you, at 24.
Yeah. Well, that's how I felt today.
Yeah.
That's why I'm nervous. No, I'm serious because
What?
it's exactly what you said. It's, do I deserve the
Sure.
right to lead you?
Sure.
And do I deserve the right to put my voice
Sure.
on this thing? And
You do.
please God, I hope
You do.
somebody can get something. I hope I can help someone,
Yeah.
honestly, because it is everyone has an interesting story,
Yeah.
but yeah, but I think at the end of the day, that's one of the basic core elements that makes for a really good leader is because if you don't go in thinking you have to figure out the plan on your own, then you go in willing to listen
That's right.
and watch
Yeah.
and just watch. And one person when I was very young, so it was like a big joke. You're in a factory. We got these giant hydraulic die cast machines. I mean, I love it there because it's just a science lab.
Yeah.
You pour metal in, you close up these megaton machines, and like 50 things happen. You open it up, and there's
And there it
a
is.
part,
Like a
an
present.
engine block, a transmission case. It's like, so it's science. I'm a total science geek, but one guy told me so that he's like, okay, you're smart and you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
So learn. And the way you learn in this place is ask them to show you what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Can you show me? And because what they used to do is they used to like where we have a maintenance. So, a machine goes down and somebody needs a part or something broke.
Mm-hmm.
They put it on a maintenance log and they used to make up names of stuff. They used to just make,
Commuter valves.
Yes,
Yeah.
Canuter valve was fun.
I'm sure.
Thankfully, I am naive, but I did recognize Canuter's not. Yeah, but I'm like, they used to put that on there, and then what would happen is the supervisor would come around, and get the radio out that's on every fork truck and everything,
Man.
and say, "I need an electrician, my Canuter valve." I mean, can you imagine a whole place full of 1,344 men and
Right.
6 girls.
With a
Or he needs her-
13-year-old brain,
Or he needs our
mindset.
Yeah. Oh God. So, yeah. But I had this, and he was a great mentor. He was an older black gentleman who was just sharp, and he was excellent. He was a really great mentor. And he said to me, "You think about it. See if you can figure out what it is in your mind, and even if you know the answer, you go out there." And you say, "Hey, can you show me this valve?"
Mm-hmm.
As an example.
Yeah.
Or, "Hey, I know we need to change out this tooling. I have no idea how long it'll take, and I need to make a prediction, for
Right.
planning. So can you show me what you have to do?" And then these old men, all not old, but when I was 20,
Yeah, absolutely.
they were looking at me and they were like, "Oh, she wants to learn."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then they'd say, "Okay, come up here. Come and look at this." And then they'd just tell me all the things. Or, "Hey, this is a new one. I don't think you've seen this breakdown yet. Come over here and let me show you how this works." And I quickly flipped from them thinking I was this girl
Right.
who didn't know anything or couldn't learn anything or didn't want to learn anything, which is all wrong. Um, but then it was like, oh, she respects what I know. She
Mm-hmm.
trusts me, and she wants to learn. And then the whole thing changed. So I got out of that authoritative style and
It really
learned.
quickly sounds like it changed from a me to we.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, yeah,
yeah.
and they
But it
felt
was
that too.
exhausting.
Yeah.
It was every job I had. So the first 14 years I spent in that plant, and I did just about every job in that. But every single time I worked with a new person, I like had to prove to them
Mm-hmm.
that I do want to learn. I am a smart person. I can fix this, you know. And it got really after 14 years, I had done almost everything, and it was like, okay, these people need a new leader,
Mm-hmm.
and I need a new space because I've made all my mistakes on these guys, and it's hard to change your leadership style with the same
Yeah.
group of people. And so
Yeah.
after that, I moved to a different plant, and then I was like, okay, I can make some intentional changes. Number one, I'm not going to cuss so much. I still am not very good I say every time I get ready to teach a class, here I am teaching leadership and communication. I'm like, I'm going to try really hard not to cuss. Every time I mess it up. Um, but then I was like, I am not going to um, I'm not going to assume that somebody's trying to screw me over. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're not. I'm not going to assume somebody's trying to cheat or trying to get out of work or any of that. I'm not going to assume that. I'm going to assume the opposite. I'm going to assume that everyone wants to succeed as much as I do.
Mm-hmm.
They want me to succeed. They know I want them to succeed. Like, and that right there, that paradigm shift, which sounds kind of simple, but very difficult for me. I don't,
Yeah.
because I didn't realize how many assumptions I was making out of fear or defensiveness or competition or whatever. But when I made that switch, then it was like a rocket went off as far as my leadership network, my relationships and stuff.
Do you think some of that was just due to? I mean, some of those are traumatic. You know what I mean? I
Yes.
mean, I've been there, and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I went through some trauma my first couple years in a
Oh yeah.
factory, especially that first 6 months. There's
I
some legit trauma.
yeah, I remember. And I also worked. I worked third shift when I went in as a supervisor, so like midnight to 8. And I don't know how many times here I am. It's like 11:15. I'm walking in, you know, and I walk through the door, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing in the middle of the night in a dirty old factory? I have a freaking chemistry degree. What
Yeah.
is? And every day I just kept walking in the
Yeah.
door, and because the people there mattered. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, we're not saving babies. We're making money. You know, I
Yeah.
want to put a new car in your driveway because
Yeah.
that's exciting and fun. But, um, you know, we're just making money
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And, but the people there that you build the relation, they matter. I matter to them. They matter to me. And when my mom died, so let's see, she died 19 years ago. Yeah, 19 years ago this month. Um, so I was pretty early, I mean, in
Mm-hmm.
my career. And when we had her viewing, like, I mean, I had just had a baby in November, and then my mom died in February. So, like, talk about
Mm-hmm.
a hormonal mess. I was a mess. But, like, her viewing, I mean, hours,
Mm-hmm.
hours of people coming through. There were people from Kokomo that drove an hour to Hartford City to stand in a 2-hour line
Mm-hmm.
just to go through and talk to me for 3 minutes. And I'm like, what? They did that for me. Like they just drove all the way and waited all this time to come and hand me some love.
Yep.
And it really had a big impact on me. And all the people that came through that talked about the way my mom affected them or changed them or how much she meant to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I don't want to just go to work and make money. I mean, I was making good money. I was a girl in a world of few girls.
Mm-hmm.
It was fast paced. Manufacturing it's addicting. It's fun. It's awesome for me. But I'm a science nerd. But um, I thought I don't want to just make money. I, when I pass, I want to have left a legacy that matters, not just
Mm-hmm.
leave some money to my kids. And so I think my attitude, it was a traumatic life event when my mom died. That was
Yeah.
and
Oh
the
yeah.
birth of my, of
Yeah.
our,
You're what, 30, 31 at the
I was
time?
31.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, yeah, 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I was 30 when my mom passed. And
Oh my God. I didn't realize we were the same age.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it is, it changes you.
Oh, yeah, in a big way.
Yeah. And, yeah, it never goes away either.
No, no.
Mm-mm.
You know, just the other day, Ashley Beeman was in here talking about, my mom and how she had supported her at one time when she needed someone. I had no idea. And I'm just sitting here breaking down, having a moment. And Ashley's like, oh, I'm sorry, Scott. I'm like, my
I
mom's
just
picture.
heard that. I listened to that podcast on my way over here.
My mom's right behind you. And, boy,
Oh, that was amazing. Yeah, she said she saved her life.
yeah. And it's like, I hope
Yeah.
that I've impacted some people's lives in a way, and that's part of this too. Is
Yeah.
I want that legacy piece, and it's bigger than money.
Oh, yeah.
Money's
Oh, my God. There's so many
they print
value
money every
streams
day.
out there.
They print money every day.
Yes.
It's
I mean, I think to myself, not that I don't want to make this, flippant, but like I am a worker.
Mhm.
I have always been a worker. I'm a hard worker. You won't get anything less than a hard worker
Right.
from me. So I know that I can always make money.
That's right.
If I'm 85 years old, I might be the person bagging your groceries or
Man,
waiting on you at the Cracker Barrel because that's my
I will do
favorite.
whatever it takes, and
Yeah.
and being someone who has spent time in a factory, you understand
Yeah.
that's a hard job,
Oh, yeah.
and so many unsung people in there that my father was one of them who spent 30 years in the same factory, and you're
Yeah.
you're well on your way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like how
yeah.
the heck?
Oh gosh, you should see it. I'm gonna show you some pictures. Because
I wish I had video set up. I don't have it set
I'm
up
glad you
yet.
don't because I didn't do my hair. I didn't put any makeup. I was like, this is a podcast.
That's
You
right.
cannot see me.
That's right.
Um,
I have a face for podcasting.
I thought the same for me, not for you.
Oh, okay.
Not for you. So I tell people this a lot because in my 29 years, in my long career, I never thought I'd be old enough to say that, but I have seen manufacturing change. It's incredible. So I tell kids now, because we do a lot of work with kids in schools, and I tell them if you want to be an electrician that carries a tool belt, then you need to work in manufacturing. If you want to be an electrician that carries a laptop, you need to work in advanced manufacturing. There's a very big difference. So we're advanced manufacturing, and there's like so I run our employee training academy for Indiana, and the plant that we are housed in, they have something like 142 robots like that are across the ceiling. There's probably
Runs on basically a
400.
grid of some
Oh
sort.
yeah, I'll show you. I'll show you the view.
I'm coming over, so you got to keep
Okay.
talking. 'Cause,
Oh my gosh, this is pressure. Now I got to find
Yeah, you
some
gotta do all the work.
on my. I have look. I have 17,539 photos on my. Is that normal? That's probably not normal. Don't steal my McDonald's Coke Zero that I'm addicted to.
Oh,
Oh,
Lord, I don't think I'm supposed to see that picture.
Look, pictures of my cat are what on here. My daughter Abby is in college at University of Louisville, and it's her cat Olive. It's her cat, but she can't take her cat, so I have to send pictures of her cat. Notice she doesn't ask for pictures of me very often, but she asks me to send her pictures of her cat. Look, I'm gonna have to find this.
Wait,
We can't do this on air.
We can't.
For Pete's sake.
Yeah, wait. So, I had an idea, but I don't think I can do it while we're recording. Well, you find your pictures. I got questions. So,
Oh gosh.
while you're
Okay.
doing that, so I can back up. I've been waiting for a spot to back up, and this is
Okay,
the perfect spot
okay.
for it. How do you end up at Chrysler? Now, I know you talked about, someone said, "Hey,
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Cheeseman," and I still have a problem. I still call Mr. Bergdahl Mr. Bergdahl.
Yeah.
Even though he insists I call him Dave. And I can't help it. So you graduate from Blackford High School,
Yeah.
go to IU,
IU Bloomington. Yeah.
and
And then I was double majoring
okay,
in chemistry and education. I wanted to be a high school chemistry teacher and coach. like
Okay.
my dad. My dad
Absolutely.
was a teacher. Um, so like Dave, I wanted to be like Dave.
So well known, by the way.
Chemistry.
I want to say this because I have not seen your dad in forever, but I ran into a guy down in Madison who is a longtime baseball coach down there,
Oh,
and when he finds out I'm from Madison or from Hartford City, he starts asking me questions, and he's like, "Who's the coach? Who's the coach up there?" And I said, "Well, there's." Quite a few coaches have been
yeah.
through. I said, but the coach I remember, and I didn't play baseball, but the coach I remember is Coach Cheeseman. Coach Cheeseman, didn't he coach with somebody else? Like this guy knew
Everybody. Craig Moore, probably.
Craig Moore.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he's associating your dad with Craig Moore. And he goes,
Yeah.
and then when Craig retired, he took over for Craig. And
That's
like
right.
he knew all this stuff.
That's
And
right.
I always think it's so interesting. And I talked about this recently. People that dump on Blackford County
Mm.
for whatever reason don't realize what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said to someone the other day, and this is going to come off as a little crass, but I don't care. Some people need to hear it. Typically, when you hear that, it's someone who's had a bad experience. Whether they had some kind of event that ruined Blackford County for them in their lives, or they've chosen to drop out of school or were kicked out of
Mm-hmm.
school, and that's given them their history of Blackford. Now, I'm sure there are others who are like, well, I went to Blackford County School and I graduated and it sucked for me. I'm sure that
That's what
happens as well. But I think there are so many more people that it was a great
Yeah.
experience
Oh, yeah.
for. And I can show that in statistically by the number of people who had a great experience at Blackford High School that have went on to be an educator
Oh,
or
yeah.
a
Oh my
coach
gosh,
or
there's so many, even locally. Just locally, there's so many.
they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And not just here, but out in South Carolina,
Wow. Yeah.
in North Carolina. There are folks in Illinois. There are folks in Michigan,
Oh, that's
folks in
cool.
Georgia. They are in
Yeah.
in Florida. They are all over the place. Up in Wisconsin, down in Arizona, that have had wonderful experiences and have become educators or professionals in some other way that had a great experience, loved it,
Yeah.
and went on to do something. And I'm sure there are some that have had wonderful experiences that have went on to be, the best damn van down by the river living person that ever lived.
Yeah. A quote that we
Rant over.
say. No, you're so right. And that's why I'm going to say a quote that I've worked with some great leaders throughout my career. And one of the ones that we say is, the grass is not greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it.
That's it. That's it.
And it, like the automotive, it's any industry, but advanced manufacturing, automotive, I get offers to go other places
No
and they
doubt.
throw big numbers at you. But I do not look at only one value stream. So I look at like this study from Ball State that I was involved in they were presenting about how to grow economic development, and there were like 8 value streams. Financial is only one. Your social network,
Mm.
physical buildings, your knowledge, the academic knowledge that you develop. I
Mhm.
mean, there's so many different streams of value, and sometimes we get really short-sighted on just the financial side. But
Sure.
I know that I am at this point in my career. I know that part of what makes me so great is that social network that I
Mhm.
have, those connections where, you present me with a complicated problem, I can figure it out because I'll call this person, this
That's right.
person, this person. I know them and they'll take my call, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I want to help you. Let's work on something
Yeah.
together." But I didn't have that when I started out. I had to really
It
work
takes time.
to build that. Yeah. And a lot of energy.
It is a lot of energy,
So
and
I don't want that at 50. I don't want to go to another place and make a few $1,000s more, but I have to work my ass off
it is hard work.
building
It was,
relationship, true.
yeah, it is
I
hard
want
work.
authentic relationships.
Yeah.
I don't want fake ones.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I really
Well,
acknowledge that.
I don't want to skip over that because I think that's really important. I want to make sure people hear that the value streams you were talking about, there is so much more than a dollar sign.
Yeah.
There is so much more than the home you live in. There
Yes.
is so much more than even the relationships you have, and it truly is it's up to you to develop
Mm,
those things
mhm,
intentionally and individually.
mhm.
Um, if you spend all your time just focused on, I'm going to go to work 12, 16 hours a day, I'm going to come home and sleep, you're going to be lacking
Yeah, and
in
I've done,
portions of
oh
your life.
man, I've done some
Sure.
years like
Yeah.
that,
I mean,
many years like that.
yeah,
But that's because I work hard. But those times working also help me to deserve
they were
the right.
value
They
added.
they help me deserve the right to talk about, like, okay, so part of what I do, I'm a senior professional is what they call it. Okay, but I'm by no means like, the big, huge
Yeah.
executive or anything. But some of my jobs have been working directly with executive vice presidents, which so I've spent a lot of time in that
Hmm.
realm, and I've actually been like put in a position to teach these. They bring all the powertrain, all the plant managers from all the powertrain divisions,
Hmm.
and then they're like, Lori, teach them something.
Teach them some.
And I'm like,
Teach them up.
about leadership
Make us
or
proud.
like what? And so those I've had several of those opportunities, but it's like, okay, I gotta deserve. What am I going to teach them?
Yeah.
And they have a lot more leadership experience. Many of them are better leaders, like you said, with teachers. So what do I have to offer them? And um, I think as part of a leader, you have to spend some time learning what you have to
Hmm.
offer.
Taking a value inventory of
Yes.
sorts. Yeah.
Yeah, and for women, I think that's hard
Why?
because,
I ask that because I'm not a woman.
yeah,
Uh,
well, oh, now what was, yeah, for women, I think, and I don't like to stereotype. Like, I value the
mhm.
uniqueness in people's experiences. I say all the time, don't see me from the top of my head. Look at my face, because there's a
Mhm.
lot of, brown-haired women that work in this company, but you better look at my face. Don't just
Right.
put me as one of the group. So I value the uniqueness of people, but I think for women, we're partially trained by society and partially, um, maybe it's just part of our innate nature, but we aren't comfortable a lot of times saying out loud what we're good at.
Okay. So that's, I want to dig deeper
Yeah.
though, because saying it out loud and saying it to yourself are two different things.
Yes. But it's
And
hard to say
both
it to
equally
yourself.
hard.
It's hard
Yeah.
to say it to yourself if you don't feel like it's allowed to say it, or if you're
Hmm.
allowed to say it out loud.
Interesting.
And this could be a whole nother thing, but
No,
like,
I don't think it has to be. I really don't. I think we can talk about it
okay,
because
gee.
I think about self-talk a lot,
Oh, it's so important.
and the importance of that. And,
Hmm.
as someone who has come from, you know, man, I've had a pretty diverse, background in work. I have watched adults. I've watched myself. I've watched adults. I've watched children of very young age raising my own. I've watched um, people older, people,
Hmm.
all walks of life, all tones of skin. Everyone has a self-talk, and
Hmm.
it's really interesting to me. If I could do a study on something, it would be self-talk.
Fascinating. Yeah.
I I'm
Fascinating.
I am just enamored by it. I absolutely am more interested in self-talk than anything else. That's why I'm driving this home, because I wonder, is it a all right, I'm going to lay it out so I understand it, because I don't know that I even understand what I'm about to say. And that's scary.
It's okay. You
That's,
can delete.
what was that? That was self-talk, right?
Who told you that? That's what I say to myself.
Yeah.
Who told you
And
that?
that's part of it. Was it someone you liked, trust, and respected?
Hmm.
Or was it someone that shouldn't be giving you advice?
Or was it the crazy lady in my brain that likes to be negative?
Hmm. Have you ever looked at I think it's seven hats, six hat theory?
Oh, yeah.
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 I think when we dig into that piece of it and we start wearing other hats and really evaluating ourselves, that self-talk piece can be really valuable
Yeah.
because you see it from different points of view. And you talked about intentionality. When we break it down and really force ourselves to evaluate our value to someone else or to something
Hmm.
more than anything to ourselves, it is very difficult. I, I've been through many interviews, and there's always that question that comes into play.
Yeah.
What are your strengths?
Yeah.
What are your weaknesses?
Yeah.
And man, I have sold that question in 10 different ways. The first time I think I heard of it was, well, I'm aware of my strengths, so sometimes they're my weaknesses because, I can lean on them. And
Oh,
like I was telling you earlier, it's not just a sales
yeah.
pitch, but quite honestly, we really start digging in and we answer those questions. And then my weaknesses, well, I really need to work on this or that. And it's hard for
Hmm.
us to not know our own. We look at ourselves in the mirror every day.
Hmm.
We know all of our flaws. We know ourselves better than anyone else.
Whether we choose to acknowledge them or not,
Right.
we know they're there.
They're there. You can't bullshit yourself.
Right.
You can't. You can lie to yourself,
Yes. Yes.
but you know your truth.
Yes.
So, regardless of
Yeah.
what you're saying to that person in the mirror, you know at the end of the
Yeah.
day, well, that was a lie.
Yeah. It's so funny. You brought my dad up, who shout out Harry Cheeseman. He just went to Florida. I
Oh,
just saw
yeah.
him yesterday. He came.
Where's he stay at?
He's in Naples,
Oh,
Florida.
man, I love Naples.
I know it's
We
the
had
bomb.
just booked a trip to go down to Nokomis, which is just north of Venice,
Oh yeah.
and Casey Key and some
Yeah.
other place. Absolutely, that's my favorite place. And honestly, I'm probably going back there to find my wedding ring that I lost in the ocean, saving Jennifer from the waves.
Oh my God. I don't feel like that's true.
That is true. I was saving her,
I
and my ring
really.
gone. Yeah, it was rough that day.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I love that place. Good.
Yeah. Anyway, so he coached basketball my whole life. Like I was around. I'm
Mhm.
sorry,
Baseball,
baseball.
yeah.
He coached baseball my whole life, and I learned a lot of leadership from him and
Yeah.
from Craig Moore.
Yeah.
Um, and like just by watching, and even over my dad's career, the way he led kids coaching had to change
Mhm.
drastically from when he started because just generational changes.
We change
Oh
culturally,
my goodness.
you know?
Yeah. And so, but what I learned was like, okay, we can all be like, you got a team and you've got like your starting pitcher, and
Mhm.
then you got your relief pitcher and you got a backup pitcher, whatever. Like, okay, I've got four pitchers, but okay, you all are one group. What makes you a rock star? That's what I say. I say, look,
Mhm.
I'm a very hard worker. I'm a smart girl, and I love to learn. Love to learn. So the worst you're going to get out of me is a good job.
Right.
I mean, a good job is the worst you're going to get out of me. But if you want rock star Lori, here's where I shine. And it took me a long time to be able to answer, to answer that, to
Mhm.
know it, and then it took me even longer to have the courage to say it.
Mhm.
Um,
That might be why I
yeah,
asked that question earlier to say, why do you think it's harder for a woman?
yeah.
Because I experienced that as a man. I think it's
Hmm.
part of us. I think it is very difficult for us to take ownership of our greatest talents
Yeah.
as human beings.
I appreciate that you say that, because I've always kind of thought that it was different
Hmm.
for what, and maybe it's just because I was in an mostly a male dominated
Sure.
work environment.
No doubt
Yeah.
that uh, man,
Now,
I don't mean to take anything away from that because
no.
I think that's extremely difficult. And as a male in a predominantly female
Yeah.
industry of
It
education,
would be the same situation.
sure, and
But it's also when you're one of six girls, it's easy to stand out.
sure, sure. Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh, man.
I mean, it's easy. And like in 2020
And I'm
when
sure that wasn't near as fun as it was for the 7 or 8 of us at cheer camp, being like one of
oh, that picture
10,
is so
like 8 or
awesome.
10 guys at
Right?
cheer camp
Yeah.
with 300 girls.
Yeah, not as fun when you're
Not
in
near
the
as
back.
fun as what we were
Yeah.
having.
Oh my gosh. I never thought about what that was
Oh,
like
man,
for
we
you
had a lot
guys.
of fun.
I bet you did. So, but on the flip side, what I was just going to say is it is hard to be one of the masses and try to stand out. Just like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
when we went to cheer camp,
Yeah.
you guys were hardly any guys
Yeah.
there. So easy to stand out.
Yeah.
But for me as a girl, like what we have 12 girls
Yeah.
on our team or so,
Something
on
like
our
that.
squad. And then there's,
300.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, it's very
And there's like
difficult to
20 of
stand
them
out.
screaming Newark. God, they were
I
annoying.
remember that.
Right.
Oh, these are memories
It's
coming way,
ingrained in my
way
head.
up.
I don't mean to steer away from what we're talking
No,
about.
no, but it's so appropriate because this kind of phenomenon exists everywhere. And the point is, it doesn't have to be about women. It doesn't have to be about leadership or not. It doesn't have to be in a industry
Mm-hmm.
of manufacturing. It can be anywhere. But it's very difficult to stand out. So your self-talk when you're one of the masses, it takes a lot more courage to say, look, there's 300 girls here, Lori, but only one of you has this. It takes a lot of guts to
I'm
do that, to
so
say to
glad you
yourself.
said courage right then, because that's exactly what I was thinking about. Not only does it take courage to self-talk it,
Hmm.
but then once you self-talk it, to actually stand up
Yeah.
in that crowd. It's
Yeah.
that
And
bystander
own it.
effect that comes into play where,
Ooh.
holy crap, we can, if something's happening, think about, something big happening and there's 50 people and there's 2 people involved. Like, let's say
Yes.
there's a fight out in the middle of the street and there's 50 people standing around. Right now, people get their phone out and start recording.
Mm-hmm.
How many people are willing to go protect
Mm-hmm.
one from the other
Mm-hmm.
or from
To
themselves?
get in the middle of
To
it,
get in the
or
middle of
yeah,
it.
to take the risk.
It's that bystander effect that comes into play. And I think it's not just in events where people are having a fight. I think it's in all of our lives.
Everywhere. Yeah.
It is. So that
Yeah.
idea of now I've self-talked, I've got me ready. I'm mentally prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got to do it. And you get into the crowd.
And I got to say to somebody, this is me. This is the kind of leader I am. Or you stand up
Boy,
in front
that's
of all the plant managers and executive vice presidents, and
there's some courage.
I got something to teach you. Like,
Yeah.
oh, and so you better. Another lesson from a mentor that I learned is, he told me one time, deserve the right, or only speak about the things you deserve the right to speak about.
That's really good.
It is very good. And I'm telling you, if you have to do any public speaking, you better write that down.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, because I told you I was nervous when I came here, but I wasn't nervous to talk. Or to share my story. I was nervous to have something of value because I haven't ever done this. I'm a super podcast listener. I listen to podcasts all the time.
You're a super listener, I think.
Super listener, is that a thing?
I think somebody did coin that. Yeah.
That's me. But I think you've got to deserve the right to speak about it. So if you are in a meeting, okay, if you're in a decision-making meeting, for example, in my work environment, and someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to,
Mm-hmm.
you have a choice. You can say, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You can make shit up.
Bad choice, by the way.
I've been there, done that. It doesn't work.
Terrible
okay.
choice.
You can have an educated guess in your mind, and you could say, hey, I think I'll get the right number for you,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm confident it's over 100. Or, I'll get the right number for you, but I'm confident it's under 5. To give them kind of a scope reference.
Yeah.
And then you go get that number. So do we need that number right now? I know exactly where it's at. Give me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you go get it. Like, if you don't deserve the right to speak about it, then you better do the work. Because sometimes you're put on the stage, like me in front of all those plant managers, you're put on a stage to speak about it. Now you better earn the right.
Hmm.
And so you got to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
But
showing respect for those that, your audience, showing
Oh,
respect for your audience
yeah.
is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm.
that's a really good way to put it. That's how I feel about this. Like
Yeah.
I want to make sure I have
You-
something of value for
Just
somebody.
showing respect to my audience.
Yes.
Boy,
What is
man.
your audience called? The shicks,
Well, I call them the shicksters sometimes, but some
shickers,
other people call them shickheads.
shickheads. That's right. Okay, I like that one.
I'm an official shickhead. I'm-
I
I,
could get a T-shirt. I got a
yeah,
cricket. I can make it. I
yeah.
can make the shit out of that T-shirt.
They're selling these big stamps online now,
Oh,
to where like you just basically ink and you
oh
put
my
a
gosh.
shirt
Yeah,
into like a little loom
old style.
and
That's old style.
yeah,
Like when my dad
yeah,
taught industrial arts.
yeah.
It's screening.
Yeah,
It's
this is a
screen print.
stamp instead of
Yeah,
the screen print, which I think is so much easier for
same
me
thing.
because
Yeah,
I don't have to clean the screen.
yeah,
Just and then if it's a bad stamp, it's like that's
yeah.
the chic show. That's pretty typical.
Quality is not our number one focus.
It's like Willy Wonka when that nut goes out.
Yeah,
That's bad nut.
yeah. So I think that if you're willing to do, first of all, you got to be willing and humble enough
Hmm.
to say, I don't deserve the right in this moment. I
Mhm.
don't deserve the right to answer that question. I don't deserve the right to teach these people who have a lot more leadership experience
Sure.
and even more, better behaviors than I do sometimes. So that takes some humility
Hmm.
and it takes some honesty with yourself to say that. And then there's a choice, a second choice where you say, I'm going to do the work to earn the right.
Hmm.
So sometimes that just means saying, I'll get you, I'll text here. I know exactly where it's at. I'll text
Mhm.
him. I'll get it. If you need it right now, I'll go get it right now and I'll be right back. Or just not making it up,
Mhm. Yeah.
being honest and then following up,
Yeah.
closing that circle. But I think so you got to make the choice to do the work. And then once you do that, then you're like, okay, 3 weeks ago, I didn't deserve the right to stand up here and teach you guys something. But in that last 3 weeks, here's what I've done to earn the right. And sometimes I start my like training sessions like that. Look,
Mhm.
I did not deserve the right to teach you in this category. But
Mhm.
let me show you what I've done in 3 weeks to try to earn
Hmm.
the right out of respect for you.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
a great way to say it.
Yeah.
And then most of the time people are like, okay, thanks for doing all the work. Now so I'm ready for you to
Yeah.
teach me something. But in my mind, I think it's important to have that respect for your
100%.
customers.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
So I think that humility to know, just like to know what is rock star Lori and what is, what's the opposite of that.
What is Rockstar Lori? You've talked about her a
Oh,
couple times.
So I am a visionary person. In fact, okay, I do have a picture I can show you because one of the guys that I work with, he's on my team. He's worked for me for a few years here, and he made this picture of me, and I just found it today because we were laughing about it. He made this picture of me painting a road. So the way I say it is like, if you get to an area and you don't have any idea what it's supposed to look like,
I'm coming.
okay. Like we're supposed to make these improvements or start this program and nobody knows what it's supposed to look like.
That's so awesome.
Isn't it great? So it's a picture of basically a desert. And then there's me as that little clip art person with my head on it. And I have a paintbrush, like a paint roller.
You're
And
ripped, by the way.
I'm right. And I'm painting the road. And that's Rockstar Lori. Like if we just need to get across the ocean
Yeah.
and we're standing on one shore and there's just a big old ocean, like I just already see in my head the route and how are we going to get there. And here, one step at a time, we'll just follow me and we'll go because that's a natural thing is vision is strategic
Yeah.
thinking. And then a lot of data analysis and those things together are just fun for me. I sound
Yeah.
like a nerd, but they're fun for me. And
Yeah.
so those things together um, really make me shine like a rock star in those environments. I just had a meeting last week about a potential development move for me. I was asking about a job, and they were like, this is a very tactical job, and you're a very strategic person. And I was like, okay, I don't want a tactical job.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know I can do it, and I know I would do a good job, but I wouldn't love it,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be passionate about it. So I need to find a place. So once you find out what rockstar Lori looks like, then it's up to you to put yourself in the position to be in those moments, to live the
Mm-hmm.
rockstar Lori life. You know, is what I say. So I am strategic, visionary. I'm a good problem solver. I love data. I told my team talk dirty to me in charts and graphs. Like when they first hired on, and I was like trying to explain what kind of a leader I am. I'm like, seriously, don't come to me and say everybody wants this or nobody wants this. Tell me 16 people want this.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I think
And
it's really important because when we generalize everybody, nobody.
oh, data diffuses emotion.
Oh my
You might want to
gosh.
write that one down too.
No, I like that one. I've used that one.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if we are leading emotionally, we're gonna
Yeah.
fail.
Or if we notice, like we are emotional beings.
Mm-hmm.
So when we notice emotions, a situation becoming too emotional,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, then as a leader, you have to you have to be sensitive to that. You have to recognize that it's happening, and then think of what kind of data can help us with
Mm-hmm.
this, and ask a question.
Sometimes it's just time, don't you think?
Yeah,
Just time. I've been in positions
yeah,
where I've been asked something. You know, you were talking earlier, and I was like, boy, I've certainly said, I don't know. I don't know, but I know that I do know this. I can find that.
yeah. That's what I
Or
say.
I know someone who has that, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the best person to tell you that.
Yeah,
There's
I
many
don't
ways around
stop
that.
it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I,
well,
I
I
mean, I used to,
stupidly have.
yeah, but me too. But now I know better. I say, I don't know
Yeah.
the specific number, or I say, I don't know, but I will find out and get back
Hmm.
to you today or tomorrow, or,
Yeah.
and yeah, sometimes you just need
What,
time
especially in
and
that
data.
emotional piece,
Yes.
when it does become an emotional scenario, there are decisions that need to be made,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to put that emotion aside and make a decision and go.
Mm-hmm.
But most often, if it's an emotional state that you're in, you can let's table that for just a moment and
Yeah.
let's come back to it.
Yeah.
It's a great question or it's a great idea. Let's table that over here for a moment and let's stay on agenda and we're going to come back to that. So we're going to put that in the parking lot. You guys
Yeah.
use parking lots?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just going to say
Yeah.
that too. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But and also you said making decisions. So that is one thing um, that I think makes me valuable in my job is I make I love data analysis, so I can make quick decisions
Hmm.
considering contingency plans, considering risks, and I'm not afraid to make decisions because I I am a so one of the personality tests that we teach is called the color code.
Hmm.
And my core motive is the power to change, the power to move myself or change a situation
Hmm.
or whatever. And so that's naturally, that's my motivation when I face every single situation. So I know that if I make the wrong decision, then I'll just turn around, come back here, and I'll make a different decision. We chose that road. Ooh, that didn't quite work
Didn't
out.
work.
Like
Pivot.
I imagine a maze in my mind. Okay, this
Yeah.
isn't it. Turn
Oh
around
my
and go
gosh.
back, and then go the other way.
That is so descriptive of very similar in my mind.
Yeah,
I think of them as pathways, but same thing
yeah,
as a maze. You have that. You're like, nope, didn't work. I've got to come back, pivot, and we've got to go this
yeah.
direction. We'll come back over, and we're going to get there.
Very
You know?
adaptive
Yeah,
reasoning. Like
yeah.
my reasoning style is very adaptive. So it doesn't bother me. I don't sit there analyzing. Well, what if I pick the wrong way?
Mm,
Well, then you just turn around and come back. But I could try three different pathways
mm-hmm.
while you're sitting there trying to figure out which one to go down.
Right.
And so I'm comfortable with that. That doesn't mean they're wrong for taking long. It doesn't mean that I'm right for trying three instead of
Right.
choosing the right one the first. It just means that I'm comfortable with being wrong.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable
Uh,
with making the wrong choice and pivoting and coming back and taking another one. It's completely comfortable with that. And so, um, so when you are a visionary person and you're really making it up, you're paving the road, then you're not afraid
mm-hmm.
to do it. And so I just one step at a time. So instead of just dreaming, I'm good at both seeing the vision to the end and also being able to break it down and get there.
Yeah.
Not just living in dreamland all the time.
It's so interesting because Jennifer and I process very differently. Back in 2015, we were living in another house, and she come home one day, and I had part of our bathroom destroyed right next to our kitchen, and a door pulled out, and I'm sitting in the living room looking at it, and she's like, "What is going on?" I said, "Here's what's going to happen." I said, that bathroom's going away and our kitchen's going right there. It's going to open up here. And I'm painting this whole picture, and
Yeah.
in my mind,
Yes.
I could already see it. I knew exactly what it looked like. And she said, write it down, draw it,
Yeah.
something, because I don't work that way. I don't see it that way. It was a learning process for me because I hadn't thought about her not being able to see that. I hadn't thought about others not seeing the vision that
Yeah.
I was very clearly telling her that there was going to be a bigger hole in the wall and there was going to be a kitchen.
Can't you see it?
I mean,
Yeah, I tell my people all the time, get in my head.
Yeah,
And then you should
right.
be very scared when you are in my head.
And
But
it was a communication thing for us. And boy, what a lesson for me going into leadership, being a teacher, going into at that time I think I was dean, dean and AD at the junior high, and that made me realize, and a coach, that I can say it all I want, but if I can't reach every person on the team,
if they don't receive your message,
yeah, if they don't
you can
receive it,
deliver a message,
it
but
doesn't
if
matter.
it doesn't get received, yeah. And oh my gosh,
Return to sender.
oh yeah, yeah,
You know?
the big handprint stamp that you get.
No,
Like
I have no
the
clue.
we just had this conversation today. Actually, the guy who made that picture of me. So we're doing something new today, and he's like, "Yeah, nobody wants to join in and help us." And I'm like, "That's because they can't see what we're trying to produce. What we are developing doesn't exist yet, and so they can't understand it. So they are, hearing us talk about this stuff we're making, but they don't know what it looks like. They don't understand what it is. So we have to put a draft out there. We have to get something. We have to put the first 4 feet of road on the ground, and then people will be able like, oh, you want me to walk with you? Okay.
I'm so glad you said just the first 4 feet.
Yes.
Because in my head, I'm thinking about how how that situation plays out. And I think we think of things very similarly. And in my head, I'm like, I've got to explain this whole thing to them. And they're not ready.
No.
So, and I, it
You're
kinda
you're
goes,
intimidating and
oh
overwhelming
yeah,
them.
it
Yeah.
kind of goes back to, I think about my journey when I went back to college. And if someone would have said to me, here's everything, and just shown me everything that was going to be involved in that next 4 years, the late nights, the summers, the missed vacations, the driving down the road, doing stuff on a computer on our way to Kings Island, and sitting in a room while the kids are at the beach in Wilmington, and
Oh wow.
all those things that were happening while that was going on. If someone would have said, here's what all is going to happen,
You wouldn't have signed up.
there's no way in hell. Because I
Right.
knew there was an easier way. I'm like you.
Right.
I can work hard. I'm going to earn. I'll
Oh, yeah.
earn. I'll find a way to earn.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm so thankful that they didn't, because that journey was so rewarding. I'm so thankful that the people that I needed at those crossroads were there to say, keep going. Don't go that way. Keep going this way. You're on the right
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
So as you're telling this, Like I was trying to tell Jennifer this whole scenario,
Yeah, oh
the
yeah.
brand new kitchen, and we're moving the bathroom, and the second living room is going to be a bathroom now, and part of it's going to be, and she's just like, I wish, this is a more than air
The
quote
look on your
moment.
face.
This is more than an air quote
The
moment,
eyes are really
right?
wide, and there's
And
some kind of "what are you smoking" vibe coming through
and
her face.
yeah, all I could see is Jennifer turning around and stirring a pot of soup like, this guy is
He
effing
is
nuts.
crazy.
He is. He's done lost his mind.
No, I
He's
do
a,
the same. Like sometimes I go outside. Like I love to garden and landscape.
God bless
Like
you.
dig in the. I love it. I love digging in the dirt. Like I love it. And I'll just sit in the yard and I'll just sit there and just look, and then go to another, a different angle,
Yeah.
and I'll just sit there, and because I'm envisioning,
Yeah. Oh
what do
yeah.
I want it to look like? What would, if I'm thinking about this, what would it look like? And then your kids come out and they're like, "Are you all right?
You're right.
What's happening over here?" you know, like, "Oh, I'm just
Having a vision
en-
session.
envisioning
Yeah.
what I want this to look like."
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So
not everybody's like that. And so just like you said, okay, that sets me apart. All right,
yeah.
sets you apart. But if we're not aware that not everybody thinks that way, and if we're not aware that when we communicate, it doesn't get received,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that you're ineffective.
Man,
That's a failure.
and I think about the folks that I've been fortunate enough to serve and lead and be on a team with that had skill sets that didn't encompass
Mm-hmm.
that next piece,
Mm-hmm.
the ability to deliver.
Yeah.
They were great senders, great doers, people with incredible talents,
Mm-hmm.
but did not have that piece to be able to deliver
Yeah.
at least the message or the
Yeah.
vision. And how thankful I am to have been with those folks because they have a skill set that I don't possess,
Mm-hmm.
to do some of the things they've done. And how important is that? How important are the team members, those
Oh.
skill players? I think of it as a
Mm.
basketball team at
Yes,
times,
me too. I'd say all the time to my people, because also from my dad, like, put me in, coach.
Yeah,
You need somebody on third shift, put me in. You need somebody
yeah,
to work in this area, put me in. Like the worst you're going to get is good job,
yeah,
put me in. But if you ask me what position I want to play, then I'm going to have a different answer.
yeah.
But like that, put me in, coach attitude is very important. But yeah, I think you mentioned. I think I just cut you off. What were you
Oh,
just going to say?
I have no clue.
I know.
I don't know what's going to happen next.
Well,
There's no agenda here.
it's so funny because
It's so nice not having an agenda, by the way.
it's nice as we're talking. It was
Yeah.
making me nervous when I was thinking about what the hell am I going to say about this. But like if you I mistakenly, okay, when I was young, when I was that 20, and one of the things that I'm good at because it's my natural personality strength is getting shit done. Like
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
love
To get shit done.
completing tasks.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So
literally,
funny. I just brought up
I,
the
I
agenda.
literally will. I acknowledge that I will do something
Yeah.
that wasn't on my list. I will sit down. I will write it
Oh my God.
on my list, and then I cross it off. Do you do the same?
So this is it's a working list,
That
and
is a little piece of paper. Jesus, that's small.
it's
My lists are like
it's because I don't have a lot of desk space, so it goes here. But
those are,
yeah,
you can't see it on the radio, but it's literally like what,
it's
3 inches
it's a little
by
bit bigger than a
2 inches.
business card.
Yeah,
It's just a touch
it's
bigger.
tiny.
But yeah, I will go through here, and sometimes when I forget to put things on the list, that's why there's a star by it. It's because I've
Oh,
forgotten it, and now I want to make it a point of emphasis. So I've taught myself to put a star next to the
yeah.
things that have slipped my mind.
But do you write something down that you've already done just for the
Oh,
satisfaction of marking it off?
hell to the yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because
Oh,
look,
yes.
I did that. I'm
Yes.
still looking for that sticker.
Yes, and I go back like to do from like my last list, and hey, I was late, but I
See
got that
that?
done. Go back and mark
It's right
that
there.
off. Yeah.
Uh, Bottom
So
of my calendar has
yes, yes.
bigger things on it. But yeah,
But so when you are a get shit doneer, that's what I
yeah,
call them, um, then you can be intimidating to people,
sure.
but you also become very attractive to people who don't really want to spend the energy, if they recognize that you're that person, and so they come to you all the time with their problems or with their tasks, and you're just addicted to task completion. So you're just doing. And when I was in my young years of leadership, oh, I was just, I was the master of multitasking, a master of, I worked my ass off. And it became a thing where people in Michigan, because our company, well, now we're giant globally, but then, the headquarters in Michigan, and people would say, hey, I got your name from so and so. I need something in Indiana. And they told me if you need anything in Indiana, you need to call Lori. Like, who's Lori? Well, here, let me give you your number. And the first time I heard that, I'm like, oh, that feels like a sticker.
It's a term of endearment.
That feels like, that feels like a pat on the back until you've got so many tasks that you're like, you're climbing up this hill, pulling a rope over your shoulder with a big boulder, and you're like, I'm dying.
What's his name? Syphagus? Is that the correct term for the guy pushing the rock up the hill?
Yeah, that exact visual was me. Like, I got to a point where I'm the doer for everybody. I'm the doer for everyone, and I'm like sweating in these little teeny tiny legs, pushing that rock up the hill. And I like, this is no way to lead.
Right.
That became an epiphany for me. Like, yes, I'm good at getting tasks done, but this is no way to lead, because if I have a group that I'm trying to lead and they're not addicted to task completion like me, then they're just very intimidated and scared of my approach.
Sisyphus, not Sisyphus, Sisyphus.
Sisyphus.
Yeah, so it's a Scythian. The term Scythian describes a task that is impossible to complete. It refers to the punishment that Sisyphus received in the underworld, where he is forced to roll a boulder up a hill repeatedly for eternity. And whenever someone talks to me about something like that, where they are the taskmaster, it's a self-imposed punishment.
Yes.
And
but the people, when you're in that role,
it's a sticker.
You think it's a sticker, and you also think everyone else sucks because they're not doing what, you're having to do twice as much.
Yeah.
But you realize that's your own fault.
It's self-imposed.
It is self-imposed, and it's because you're narrow-minded. It's because you didn't acknowledge that not everyone is the same.
Boy, that's a great way of putting it. I never thought about it as narrow-minded. I've thought often of it as selfish.
Yeah.
Because it is.
It feels selfish.
It does, because it's sticker pursuit, and you're hoping one of them's a scratch and sniff.
Or a winning lottery ticket.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, well, in a way it is, because you are doing it with the idea in your head of, I'm going to be noticed. They're going to see that I am the person they can come to. I am that leader. I am the person that gets shit done in Indiana.
And I like that. I mean, I want to be valuable like that.
At some point, though, you recognized as a leader, and I see it, like, you close your eyes, you're shaking your head, you're like, I realized I was cheating the people that I was leading, because you wear yourself so thin to where the people that you're leading are going,
I'm not pushing that rock. Like, good on you, but I'm not pushing that rock.
Yeah, it's not a rock to push.
Yes. Yeah. And oh man, there was really a time when I had this moment where I realized, oh my gosh, like this is going to make me sound terrible, but when I was young, I really thought that people just thought the same way I did. Like, and I mean like, at work. Okay. I'm not talking about a social crisis or anything like that. I'm saying, okay, at work, this problem comes up for discussion, and my brain automatically goes through problem solving and analysis type thinking. And I just assumed that everyone did that. I did.
I laugh because I get it.
I thought everyone did that. And then I was like, oh my God, not everybody thinks the same way I do, no wonder they think I'm a bitch. Like they're intimidated. Even my
Yeah.
son, like told me that I'm intimidating. Like he's like,
Yeah.
don't intimidate. Or when I said I'm going to talk to the principal, don't fire him. I'm like, dude,
Don't
he
fire
doesn't work for me. I don't. But it's like, but you're scary. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not scary, but intimidating, because if someone doesn't think the same way that
Mhm.
you think, or feel as comfortable making decisions or talking about data, you know,
Yeah.
if someone doesn't feel as comfortable with those conversation styles, then it could be very intimidating.
Sure.
So people, when I think all the time, I'm thinking
Yeah.
all the time. And a lot of times my face gets all scrunched up.
Oh man. Do you get it like in your jaw?
Yes.
Oh, that's me. And you
Yes.
like here?
Yes. When you're like, you have to release the tension in your face.
Yeah.
But what happened is,
I do this privately.
me too. Me too. We won't talk about what that looks
I know.
like.
That was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't even realize you've got the tension in
Yeah.
your face and your jaw. But like when I was a supervisor, when I first became a supervisor, and I had, I don't know, like 50 people working for me, a big area. So you're constantly walking
Mm,
around
mhm.
to talk to people and check out
Yeah.
situations. People used to come up to me all the time and be like, why are you so mad? Like, who pissed you off? And I would be like, what are you talking about? I'm not mad. What? You could have fooled me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not mad at all. I'm thinking. And apparently it hurts sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
but I didn't ever pay attention to what others' perception of me was.
Interesting you bring that up. Not too long ago, and I think I've talked about this before, but since I've transitioned to educational furniture,
Mm-hmm.
my boss was here at the house sometime in the fall. He brought some catalogs over. We were just having a discussion. I brought him in there and introduced him to Jennifer. And he said, "Are you happy?"
Mm.
I said, "Yeah." I said, I'm very happy. I said, "But the better person to ask would be her because I am not a good judge of how I
Mm-hmm.
am doing."
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "I'm happy to have my husband back."
Oh.
And I didn't realize
Mm-hmm.
how much of that I was carrying. And I said, "Really?" And
Yeah.
I said, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah, you don't even look like the same person."
Wow.
I thought, man, and as you were telling that, I was thinking about the amount of weight we carry.
Yeah.
And as much as we want to be able to drop that off, I used to tell my players when I was coaching softball and basketball, when you we'll say walk onto the field, I want you to take all of your issues. And I'd learned this from a guy named, oh God dang it, man, Pete Balderas.
Hmm.
Pete
Oh,
Balderas
yeah. Yeah.
was one of my guys. He was my supervisor at JD Byrider when I was in sales.
Listen
And
to me saying, oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like I
you
know
know
him.
Pete.
I really don't. But
Listen, if you
like,
met Pete, you would think you
I'm
knew
just
Pete
saying
for
that.
like your whole
I
life.
just, that,
He's that guy.
Here, that was an example of me lying,
Yeah.
though.
Oh yeah, I know that guy.
What I just
Yeah,
told you
Pete.
shouldn't do. Like
Oh, Pete.
before.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well. So Pete said, "Hey, when you guys walk in, I want you to just pull out a brown paper bag, and you're going to open it up, and you're going to take all your issues, and I want you to put them in that bag, and then you're going to wad it back up, and you're going to set it right outside the door, so that when you come in here, you can focus on what you're here to do." I want to be, I want to be, I want to be able to supervise you. I want to be able to help you through issues. But if you don't drop off those problems that are weighing on you when you get through that door, you're not going to be here long enough for me to be able to help you with those. I want you to drop them off, and then when you leave, you can pick them back up. And what he was
Now,
telling
could you
us,
do that?
I learned to do that.
Yeah, I can't.
I learned to do
I've
that
had people say that too. I cannot.
as
I cannot.
as a collector and a repo guy. I
Oh,
had to do
yeah.
it.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Different
had to.
environment.
Because if I brought the issues I just dealt with for the throughout my day into my house, my wife and I were going to have bigger issues.
For sure.
The last thing I ever wanted her, and it was more
Mm.
because I didn't want her worrying about
Yeah, I get that. I get
um,
that.
I never wanted her to worry about, did somebody put a gun in your face today? Did you
Oh,
get ran over
Lord.
by a car? Did somebody stick their dog on you? Did you get cussed?
Oh my
Did you
gosh.
get chased around? You know,
You have a fascinating career history.
so I didn't want her. I knew at some level she knew those things were probably happening, and they were. but I didn't want her to think about them.
Mm.
So I really became practiced at compartmentalizing.
Mm.
I wasn't as successful with that as an educator. As an educator, I was on I was on duty 24/7. I was Mr. Schick 24/7. And uh, I say that because I have so much respect for all my teacher friends out there. And I pray that they find a way to put it down for even an hour. Just put it away. Put that badge away for an hour and keep to yourself. Just have a moment for, for me, it was for Scott. And I can recall sitting with
Mhm.
Jennifer before not long after I'd went to Oak Hill. And I loved Oak Hill. I had an incredible team at Oak
Yeah,
Hill.
my sister was there with
Loved
you.
those folks.
Yeah.
Loved them. And they were so supportive. What a great community. But I could not put it away. And I went from being an assistant principal to a principal, and there is a huge jump in responsibility that comes along with that. And as I love being an assistant principal, I was very good at putting it away at 4 o'clock.
Mm.
And every once in a while, I'd come home and tell a story about it.
Right.
Jennifer would say, "Oh, well, how was your day?" "Oh, I only suspended kids for 85 days today." You know,
Oh,
depending
gee.
on what was going on, what time of year, if it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
holiday weekend or something.
Yeah.
But as a principal, I couldn't put it away. I
Mm.
couldn't I couldn't leave that bag at the door, and it weighed on me.
Yeah.
And I started having some heart issues. I've never talked about this on my podcast,
Mm.
but my blood pressure was going all over the place. And the folks in my office knew what was going on, but my blood pressure was going all over the place. I was lightheaded quite often. I was having anxiety issues,
Yeah.
is what it was, and
Yeah.
I couldn't put it away. All I could think about was that kid, that family, that, you know,
I was that. I did the same thing when I don't remember how many years it's been. I thought I was having a heart attack.
mm,
Like I had the
oh
the
yeah,
pain and couldn't breathe and it felt like
racing,
somebody was sitting on my chest,
yes,
And so for 3 days, man, I'm only, 40 something. I'm not having a heart attack, but of course that is in one side of my family.
hmm,
But then I'm like after the third day I was like, okay, like it's getting worse.
yeah,
Like so we went to the emergency room and oh my goodness, thank God for professionals who know how to handle a situation like that. But I was not prepared
uh,
when we went in and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. I mean, I was like my swooped into this room. People were putting sensors on me
mm,
before I even told them what my name was, taking off my shirt, I'm like, and but it was a panic attack
yeah,
and an anxiety attack and it
hmm,
and it it was from that I run through several situations like where it just weighs on you too much and
yeah,
you can't you don't know how to shed it.
yeah. And I think it's important to recognize that we ha- we have to do that. We have to be able to separate ourselves to serve those people we're leading.
Mm,
And without the ability to take a moment away from it, um, it's a disservice.
yeah.
And that's part of it too. It's like I, as a leader, I felt so committed to my team that I didn't want to fail them in any facet of my life.
Mm,
Not one of them. I
mm.
was exercising like I was
So much
exercising.
pressure.
Yeah, I was eating better. I was thinking about all this stuff, and there is a lot of pressure that
Yeah.
comes along with being a good leader.
Yeah.
There is a amount of pressure, but you also have to be able to manage that. And God bless you for being able to manage that and being able to continue to push through to find a way to manage the two lives because
Yeah.
they are two very different lives.
Yeah. And for me in my career it's been a struggle like as a mom, working
Oh yeah.
mom. And I my daughter works at a daycare right now and she'll talk about the people that are waiting when you show up at 5:30 a.m. to
Oh
open the daycare and
yeah.
there's somebody already there waiting and then you're closing at 5:30 p.m.
And they're racing
and
in.
they're late. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I say all the time, oh my God, that was me
Yeah.
with you. You were
Mm.
the little kid because uh, those were the hours that I worked. I was always racing to get there and then get to work, and then I was looking at my clock constantly. Like I got to go
Mhm.
pick up my kid. I can come back, but I got to go. They're going to close the door, and I felt such guilt. Like I felt such guilt leaving the responsibilities I had at work, and then when I pull into the parking lot and you see your little kid is the last
Mhm.
person and they're looking at, and then I felt such guilt. It was like I couldn't escape guilt. So I was constantly searching for the balance. Women, you can have it all. I was searching for that balance. And at first I thought, okay, it's a number. Like I have a sleep number bed, so I just got to find that perfect
Mhm.
sleep number. I got to find that perfect number and then it'll all be good. Of course, that doesn't it didn't exist for me. So,
Mhm.
um, and then I learned painfully that for me, integration was better than balance.
Hmm. Explain that.
So I wanted to have I love my career. I
Yeah.
wanted to have a career, but I also wanted to be an active and involved parent.
Mhm.
Now, thankfully, I was in a position to be able to combine them some because I eventually got to the position I'm in now where I opened the academy, and then we began building partnerships with schools
Mm.
to try to build interest in advanced manufacturing and try to really start developing a sustainable workforce for decades later. Because if you're going up to the CEO and you're asking for $415 million to build a new plant,
Hold on. Let me get you one
I
of
know
my cards.
there better be. Well, I don't have that. Yeah, yeah, I don't. I was doing the PowerPoint. I wasn't the person asking for it, but you can't do it with integrity if you're not doing something on the back end to make sure that there's going to be a sustainable workforce here. Like
Yeah.
for a while, I was in a role where we were constantly just trying to cement future business, but in my mind, I was like, I can't honestly fight for future business if I don't have some confidence
In
that
the
that
current.
we're going to be able
Yeah.
to sustain it. And so what I did was create. I mean, this is how I created a partnership, and we start working with local schools on. Hey, we could do field trips. I can come to your school and we can do fun STEM activities. And then I could use my own kids' school.
Mhm.
And so that,
Mhm.
and then we developed. Tipton County actually developed a robotics team, and the very first one, and we did. It was fourth graders, and they had kids from Tipton and kids from Tri Central. So it was like Montpelier, Hartford for
Mhm.
us.
Yeah.
And they did one team, and since they were doing one team, they needed kind of like a neutral place, and so I was like, "Hey, why don't you come here?"
Yeah.
So so these kids who my youngest son was on the team, like they came 2 or 3 times a week after school to work, and they came to the academy
Hmm.
and they did their robotics practicing with their parents and stuff in our academy and at work, and we loved it. And we've got over 29 school
Oh
systems
my
that we work
gosh.
with. We've had well over 6,000 participants. I mean, we got school boards that come in for tours. We got all the way from mostly from third grade up into college
Wow.
internships, and it's so much fun for me. So that was a way that I could partner and integrate
Mhm.
passions of mine and still let my kids be a part of it. Like when I grew up, my dad was teaching. He used to print the programs for the basketball game.
Yeah.
So on Saturday or whatever, you come in
Yep.
with your dad and you make buttons and you screen
That's
print
right.
T-shirts and you fold programs, and like it was just a normal thing for us. And so I just started bringing my kids
Mhm.
when I created the space where they were allowed and safe. But
Yeah.
that took some work. I mean,
Yeah.
let me tell you, getting kids under 18 into an environment.
And all that work you had done
Yes.
led to that.
Yes.
That led you to being
Yes.
trusted in that,
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah. So that's one example of how I integrated, but also I learned I was thinking of them as separate because I thought that's what you were supposed to do, which for many people it works. For me, it wasn't working. I wasn't thinking of career and then mom or
Mm.
personal life or whatever you want to call it. Um, what I learned was I had to look at my whole day and all the responsibilities I had for that day as one thing. And sometimes, depending on what was going on, work required more of me,
Mm-hmm.
like, a 65% focus on work, 35%
Hmm.
focus here. And other times, your family and home, your personal life requires more.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just constantly trying to give like 80/80.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't
It
exist.
doesn't.
You don't have that
And
much.
yeah, and I'm like an overachiever by nature. So I was
Yeah.
just, I was so, I was so set on being able to overachieve in that situation. But I just learned that, hey, for me, what works, and I say that, but I learned so hard. I mean, I asked so many women and people, what's the secret? What's the secret? And people ask me that now. And I say, look, for me, what worked was learning that the perfect balance doesn't exist. It's like a teeter totter.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to look at my entire day, what I got to do for myself and for my work and for my family, and then let the number slide. Just make sure that it doesn't always slide where you're shorting your
Mm-hmm.
family or always slide where you're shorting your work. You have to manage that balance and then integrate as much as possible.
Hmm.
And integrate my family, my personal life, and my career at the same time.
Maybe that's what my struggle was. That I didn't integrate.
You can just keep them separate.
I didn't like,
Yeah.
and maybe because I was so practiced. Two very different worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Collecting and repossessing cars is a very different world
Oh man.
than
I wish I could
being an
I
educator.
do a lot of shadowing, so that I can understand a day in the life of
Oh
I
man.
have this whole project that I did for years, a day in the life of a unit leader. And I would so love to do
I
a
took
day
her.
in the life of your
I took
repo.
I took Jennifer's dad with me. I've taken quite a few people. I took her dad with me one time, and we're in Marion. I'll never forget this. I found the car that I'm looking for, that I've been looking for a while, and it's in the alley in a closed locked garage. It's fenced, so I can't get around the fence.
How did you find it?
I was really good at what I did.
Okay.
I'm really good at
Lot.
finding things.
Oh, okay.
I'm
I'm filing that one away.
like, all right. So I get out the car, like I know where the house is. I get out the car and look in the garage. Sure shit, there it is. But there's no way to get to a door. They're not answering the phone. We had flip phones back then. And so I'm like, all right. So I jump back in and say, Kenny, we're going to go around front. I'm on park. If you would keep an eye out for any movement, whatever. So I go up the door, knock on it. I ask the lady, oh, hey, so and so here. I'm so and so CNAC and here to talk to him about their account. And she's like, no, he's not here.
Of course not.
So, well, his car's here. And she goes,
No.
no, it's not. And I said, it's not in the garage. She said, no, I don't think so. You can go look.
Oh, there you go. That's
And
what you're waiting
I
for,
said,
right?
okay. I
Yeah.
said,
Okay.
cool. About that time, I said, well, if it's not in there, where is it? Well, he just left. I'm like, son of a bitch. Get to the car, open the car door. I said, Kenny, did you see that car? And he goes,
Yeah.
I fell asleep. I took my dad with me one day up to South Bend, and I've got to take this car, go up, knock on the door. My dad's with me, and when I got out of the car, at that point I'd been doing it a while. When Kenny was with me, I hadn't been doing it in a while. And as I get out of the car, I looked at my dad and I said, whatever happens,
Don't go to.
don't get out.
Oh,
Don't get out.
true. Okay.
So I go up
You'd
the
have
door
to
and
say
knock.
that to me. I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knock and no answer. I knock again, no answer. And finally I'm like, all right, I'm going to go out there. And what I would do is I would go out and I'd start messing with your car. I would open, we had keys.
Mm-hmm.
We were the financer
Right.
and the
Oh,
dealer,
so
right?
you had, yeah.
So we
okay.
had keys. I'd go out and open your doors, open your trunk, and honk the horn, pop the hood, as annoying as can be, right? oh God, the stories I could tell about this one. So I'm like, son of a gun, this guy's not here. So
Yeah,
uh,
because they're coming out telling you to
eventually he
get
came
away
out.
from my
Yeah, he
yeah.
came out, and I said, hey man, I said I got to take your car today. We've exhausted all our efforts. I'm taking your car unless you have full payment. Blah blah blah. And he goes, no, I ain't got no money, so let me just get my stuff out and everything else. Well, neighbors start coming out. When neighbors start coming out, it gets a little more
Oh,
interesting. Fortunately, that day we didn't have any issues, but there was another time in Muncie, and I had my brother with me when I had to tell him the same thing. And Bill's a hothead. Whatever happens, don't get out. And we're in the south side of Muncie, and next thing you know, I got about 6, 8 people standing around.
and your dad didn't get out?
My brother didn't get out. My dad didn't get out. Nobody got
Really?
out. Like,
Oh, I don't know that. Like if it was my kid out
yeah,
there,
nope,
I
they
wouldn't
didn't
be
get
able
out.
to stay in the car.
Yeah. And I'm very lucky that any of the real incidents that ever happened, that one in Muncie turned out okay. I was able to
Yeah.
negotiate the one up in South Bend, okay, and negotiate it. But there were times when I wasn't able to, and it did get interesting. And
Interesting.
yeah,
That's a good word.
that's
Yeah.
how I would come home and talk about my job. So you can see I'm still practicing it, and
Well,
it's been
yeah.
15 years.
And I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm thinking, you had so much practice de-escalating
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
and how that must
Yeah.
have served you in
Oh, 100%.
education
Yeah.
at the school.
It was invaluable, and it was real world de-escalating,
Yeah.
not with a kid,
It's not
but with
practice.
but
Yeah.
with an adult in a public setting
Yeah.
in a highly heightened,
Yeah.
very
Tense
emotional
and stressful.
situation.
Yeah.
And 25,000 doors I knocked on,
Oh my.
in 10 years, easily.
And all different kinds of people
All
answer
different
them.
kinds of people, all different kinds of ages, all different kinds of scenarios. I had a customer that, oh God, I don't want to get into all those, but you learn very quickly that you need to form a relationship immediately. There has to be some sort of
Yeah.
trust
Yes.
between two people.
Which is where the perception comes into play that when you're from a leadership perspective, if you're at the bottom of the hierarchy, you're being led, you're
Hmm.
just responsible for yourself. Then your perception equals your reality. They're the same.
Yeah.
Whether it's truth or not, your perception is your reality because that's all you know.
Yeah.
But the higher up you go in leadership, the more your reality is less and perception matters more.
Mm.
Because,
Mhm.
like me walking around with, my face all scrunched up, the reality was I wasn't mad at all. But his perception of me being pissed, like I didn't convince him that I wasn't mad.
Yeah.
He saw it when whoever it was,
Yeah.
he saw me. He made that judgment based on nonverbal cues
Yep.
that I didn't even realize I was giving off. And then it's like you can't prove him otherwise. You have to change.
Hmm.
I realized I have to pay attention to what communicate because you're always
Always
communicating,
communicating.
always.
Yeah.
And so I need to pay attention to what I'm communicating when I'm walking around the people that I lead. And
Hmm.
do they trust me? Because if they don't trust you, they're not going to tell you the truth.
Right.
And they're not going to come to you with problems, which is what you're there for.
Years ago, I was in a training called Joe Verdi. Joe Verdi was the sales training group that
Mm.
came to Byrider, and their big push was like, trust, and respect. 80% of people, there was like 85% of people, I can't remember the exact data now, but 85% of people buy from someone they like, trust, and respect. I carried that same information on as a teacher. I carried that same
Yeah.
information on as a leader, that like, trust, and respect is an important aspect of it. And it's not like we're going out there and trying to be liked.
Right. It's not a homecoming queen.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not looking for votes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that relationship piece, communicating with one another, if you're hated, it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah. You're not going to lead, you're going to manage.
Absolutely.
At that point, you'll be able to manage people
For a minute.
for a minute. Yeah. Because especially in America, in the
Yeah.
US,
Yeah.
people will only do something because you told them to and you're their boss like two
That's it.
times.
Yeah.
and,
You're right.
and then they just won't do it. Like you have to influence. You can't.
Have you ever read the book Persuasion?
No, but I thought you were going to say influence without authority.
Well, there's a book
Oh my
called
God.
Influence as well, but I haven't read that one. But have you read that? Is it a book?
Influence without authority, or
Yeah.
yes,
Is it?
yes. Oh my gosh. In fact,
No, I'll look
I
it
have
up.
the model.
Do you? I'll have to get it on audiobook. I still listen and read a lot of different,
Yeah.
books on leadership.
Oh, I have studied. Oh, like I'm a studier. I
Yeah.
love to learn. School was not difficult for me because I love to learn. And
Yeah.
so studying, I enjoy. I never had to force myself, and I still do it. I love to read and study, listen to podcasts. It's a version of a form of studying.
Yeah.
I don't just listen for entertainment. I listen to
I'm with you.
like steady ones.
I think after high school, I failed miserably at Ball State when I initially went in '92. Going back, it was something I wanted.
Yeah.
And because it was something I wanted, I put
Yeah.
the effort into it. Uh, Outside of it, people think, "Oh, what do you read?" Are you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm an information reader,
Yeah.
but it's information that I enjoy reading. I enjoy reading psychology. I enjoy reading
Yes.
about persuasion, influence.
Yeah.
I enjoy books about the Sopranos
Ah.
that go into the psychology.
Oh.
This is the gospel,
I haven't read.
according to Tony
Oh,
Soprano.
that's
And I've been reading this book for about 10 years.
funny.
Sadly, you can see I'm about midway through it. But I go back and I reread so much of it because I'm like, oh man, I see it a little bit differently
Oh,
when I go back and read it again.
that is exactly why I write in my Bible. Like some people might, be uncomfortable with that, but I write in my Bible, and I love it because then when I go back and read it, when we're studying it or it comes up as a verse in church, like as in a different time, and I might see it completely differently.
So much.
And I even write like some certain situations that I was going through that were difficult, and this verse really helped me. I just mark that down, and then I can, when I go back and on Sunday, oh, this happens to be the verse today, and I'm like, oh God, look at that! Like, look at that! This is perfect for today, and I forgot it
Yeah.
was like this, 7 years ago. My Bible's like falling apart, and it's a whole nother. Well, that's a whole nother story, but it's
The
moldy and
the chick historian in me is going, oh my God, your grandkids are going to love that
Oh,
Bible.
I did I did my first sermon last year, and I did it,
yeah.
or I guess it was 2 years ago now, and I did it on the Bible because I was like, my Bible is a visual representation of my
Interesting.
faith, like the different phases of faith.
Yeah.
Moldy from when I left it in the garage for a couple of years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
That's interesting.
yeah, but
Yeah.
just
So
wipe that.
we talked about rock star,
Yeah.
Lori. What is dumpster fire, Lori?
Well, interestingly enough, okay, I'm going to answer that two ways.
Okay.
Dumpster fire, Lori, is like the job that looks the same every day, that is the same thing over and over, that is just mindlessly completing tasks. That's dumpster fire, Lori, because like I love to work on improving and changing like our assembly lines, but every time I go out there, I'm like, man, I couldn't last a day
Yeah.
just doing the same thing over and over. But my son Austin, he loves that. He loves the idea of he wants to know what he's going into, wants to
Consistency.
do the same thing, and it's just for different people. And my son Aaron, he wants to do something different all the time, like so for me, when I'm in that position, then I am not. I'll still get it done, but I got a bad attitude. I'm unfulfilled. I'm not satisfied. I'm not engaged.
Sure.
And I don't last very long. I just find something different because it goes back to me just wanting to change my situation.
Your mind's never in it.
No,
Yeah.
no, but for others, it's the perfect environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
People who love that consistency and stability and working with their hands, and they don't want to have to make
Oh, it
decisions.
can be therapeutic.
Yeah. So, like, if you're one of those people, you need to come and work for us. I mean, it's simply, seriously.
Sure.
But you got to know
Yeah.
dumpster fire Lori versus rock star Lori. And it took
Yeah.
me a long time to figure that out.
Sure.
The other side of that is when I want to say there was a time, so I was task, get shit doneer Lori for a long time. And let's see, I was still working at the casting plant. So I probably, it's probably 10 years, 12 years maybe into my career. And there was a consultant that was working with our maintenance group. And one day he came up to my office and he said, "Are you up for some, feedback?" That's what I was like. Um, sure. Like, because it was not expected. It was
Yeah.
random. And so I said, sure. Um, but I truly am open.
Yeah.
I just was so nervous about what's he going to say. Like,
Yeah, sometimes though.
and he said to me, you are so, you are naturally a leader and you are so good at gathering teams up and getting things done. He goes, but have you ever looked at the death and destruction that you leave in your path? And I was like, excuse me? Like, wait, I changed my answer. Like, I thought I was shocked because that's not how I saw myself at all.
Yeah.
But at the same time, really quickly, I was grateful that he had the courage to
Boy.
say that. But oh my Lord. I mean, I was probably 30, maybe not, like
Yeah.
really. Uh, but he said, I just see a great leader in you, and this is important.
Hmm.
And so, I had my whole snarky, shocked, like, who, excuse me, you're in my office, kind of had that moment of reaction. And then I was like, really? Is that really me? So then find a couple people I trust that I think will tell me the truth. And I say, hey, this guy just came in and said this. Is that me?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, it can be. I'm like, what? I was completely oblivious
Yeah.
to that. And that narrow-mindedness, which is just growing for me. I just see it as a growth for me. But so I thought, okay, what am I going to do? I can just stay this way, or I can't stay this way. I got to do
Mm-hmm.
something different. And so this is what I did. Like, it was not natural. Like, I'm a friendly person. I have had a lot of friends. I'm social, like always. But once I get in that task mode, I mean, you just cannot get in my way.
Forehead's down a little
Oh,
bit.
and I'm like, if somebody tries to chit chat, I'm like, we got shit to do. Like, I don't have time for this,
Yeah.
because you just get in that mode, that zone. And I was way in it. And so I wrote, I thought, okay, I've got to be intentional. It's like what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Some things are natural, some things have to be intentional. So I wrote on my calendar, okay, at 2:00 every day, talk to someone and not about work, which, like, even my team right now, if I'm teaching, they have to be in there to remind me to take a break because I'll just
Yeah.
go straight through. Like, we'll probably, yeah, I was gonna say I'll probably look down. It's like 11:30 or something. I do have to work, but like, so I realized, okay, it's not just you've got to have a real relationship with someone. It can't just be all work.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I had to dial it back. Thanks to
Yeah.
this guy named Kevin. I'll never Kevin from practice. And then so I was like, okay, I'm gonna just force myself to go down, and I'm gonna just, the first time I see someone and something strikes my attention, then I'm gonna just talk.
Mm-hmm.
So I like had an office upstairs, so like 2:00. Okay, I can do this. I go downstairs, walk out the door, and there's a guy, and he has a cast on. I'm like, hey, what happened to your arm?
Hmm.
And he just stopped. Like I could just see how shocked he was that I talked to him. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was a
Wow.
bitch. Like
Wow.
I was so in the zone of task
Yeah.
that I was not respecting the people around me.
Hmm.
And so then he started talking, and I talked to him for like 10 minutes or whatever, you know. And then I just went back upstairs and went to work every day. So I had to practice. And then after a while, it became like, oh my gosh, okay. This is much more rewarding than crossing things off my list.
Yeah.
And it's not that I didn't care about people before. I just was so in the
Yeah.
zone.
Yeah.
And so now, I did that for quite some time to be very intentional. And then it became much more natural.
Hmm.
And I don't get in that zone very often. I notice when I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Because it's healthy for productivity, like, getting stuff done, but it's not healthy for relationships and it's not healthy for long term.
I'm the flip side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the flip side of that,
Mm.
where I am so focused on all the relationships that the get shit done stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to tell Shelby, she was my secretary, no one, I don't take calls from this time to this
Force me to
time.
work.
I'm not taking calls and I'm in a meeting or I'm not here.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated that because my door was open all the time.
Yeah.
I literally had to put stuff on my window so I wouldn't see people coming down the hallway because my desk was here, my window was there, and I'd look up and I'd be like, "Hey, come on in."
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on in. Oh, no, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
I just have all this stuff to do. No, come on in. Oh, I'd love to hear about your
Now,
dog.
see, if I was
Your
your
cat
now,
had diarrhea? Oh my God.
oh my, this is okay. This is a daily thing for me. So I love this that we're on the opposite side because as a leader, like now I recognize what I am and that other people are different. Okay. And it takes all of us. Like I say it because it isn't easy.
It is not.
I have to be very intentional about it. But so where we were before, I had an office that, so I didn't hear it. Then we moved, we changed locations, and now we're all in like the same cubicle area. And I like it because you can hear each other and you can talk. We're physically closer and we're able to be closer. But then somebody comes up to someone else and they're talking, and I'm not judging them. They need to build these relationships. I'm proud of them for building because I know they can't do their job unless they
Yeah.
have these conversations. But I have to remind myself of that. Like,
Yeah.
and when someone comes to me and I don't want to be interrupted necessarily because I'm zoned
That's
on the
right.
task,
That's right.
and then I have to be intentional.
Yeah.
And it's much easier now,
Yeah.
but
It takes some time though.
and
Yeah.
practice. You just have to practice even still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I had to put it on my calendar.
I mean, yeah, like
I had to
you're
prioritize it.
you're putting tasks on your calendar and I'm
Yeah.
putting people on my calendar, but
Right.
it could be anything. Could be fun. Like, some other people are motivated by fun, other people.
Yeah.
So you need to study personality types. You need to know, like I say, who am I? Who am I? And who the hell are they? They're
Yeah.
working for me. Like, who am I? And who are
Yeah.
they? Like, I gotta, when you're a leader, it's your responsibility to know, in my opinion, it's your responsibility to know yourself and get to know everyone that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you influence them? Because you have a responsibility.
And that's it. Some people are that guy with the broken arm. That may have changed. I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
that it changed his perception of you.
Oh, yeah.
And ultimately it changed how his performance at work went. Whether he
that
knew
day
it
at
or
least,
not.
in that
I
minute,
mean,
yeah.
and eventually over time,
Yeah.
we call them touch points in education. I hate that term because there's nothing touchy, going
I
on.
call them connection points.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
a great. I like
It's
it.
better
Connection
than
points. That is.
Touch
Thank
seems
you.
a little iffy.
I'll throw one out here for Jocelyn. We're going to touch base. Jocelyn.
Follow back up with that.
Jocelyn always tells me about a friend of mine that's a principal, and hey, we're going to touch base. And so,
Which base? Third base?
hopefully
First
not.
base?
Better not be any base touching that way. But she's always bringing it up when I'll say, I got
You
to
gotta
reach out.
delete that stuff
I
too.
got to reach out to so and so. Well, he doesn't listen to my podcast.
Oh, okay.
And I know this because I've had conversations with him, and not a peep about it. So it's really easy on this end to know when somebody is listening and when they're not, because I can reference something and they're like,
No
"Oh,"
reaction.
and I'm like, "Yep, they have not even
Oh,
listened to the intro." So but
oh, that's funny.
those connection points,
Yeah.
great term. Those connection points are so important because you find out a little bit about boy, they're real. You thought they were a dog person. They're a
Mm,
cat person.
that's
I've been
diarrhea.
talking to them about dogs. They hate me. They hate me because I'm talking about dogs. Now I'm talking about
Yeah.
cats. And man, I gotta. He showed me a picture of Fluffy.
Yeah.
You know,
You need to find common ground. First of all, you need to appear approachable.
absolutely.
And then, but you need to find common ground really quickly.
Yeah.
And, and so
Lord
then,
knows.
and if, and so, okay, this is for anybody going out to do interviews. I've done a lot of interviewing people and even gone on interviews myself, but I completely changed my resume because I was so nervous in interview when someone was interviewing. And in our place, um,
You were the interviewer or
well,
interviewee.
interviewee
Okay.
in this. So at our place, we have like diagonal slice or, skip level meetings or somebody comes in, a new executive comes in and you're on the team and they just set up times to meet with you one-on-one.
Gotcha.
I just want to learn about you, which I
Connect.
love. That's a
Connection
great thing.
points.
But very nerve wracking, especially when you're a global company because you don't know what people are expecting. And for
Right.
a long time, I tried to just adapt. I am very adaptable.
Somebody used that term towards me the other day.
Yeah, I am very adaptable, but sometimes that can be rough because you, what do you want me to be? Like, what do you want me to say? How do I create this persona that I think you are interested in instead of just, knowing Rockstar Lori is this and I'm going to own this. It's scary, but so I was very nervous about him. So I changed my resume and made it like instead of being portrait, I made it landscape orientation.
Oh, interesting.
And
Oh
I
my
just put like
God.
this.
Hey,
I'm gonna send it to you.
tip for everyone out there, as someone
Yes.
who has looked at numerous
Yeah.
resumes, you flip that thing
Yes.
landscape and it's different than
Yes.
everyone out there. A little bit heavier paper,
Catches your eye.
landscape, and you're a
Yes.
winner. Okay.
And so what I did was instead of putting work history, instead of putting, we had a individual development plan tool where we had this visual like stair step that went up like from one corner of the paper to the opposite top corner, and you put like the different jobs that you'd had and some key responsibilities. So it was like this visual shape, of the stairway.
Growth.
Yes. And so, and then you can make it a color. Okay. You can make that a color. And then I put a picture of my family.
Mm.
And so before I even changed to landscape and stuff, the first thing I did on my portrait was put a picture of my family in the corner. And it wasn't just a picture of me, but it was my whole family. And because I thought, if I can go in there and connect with this person right away, then we'll be fine. We're going to be friends. I'm going to like you. You're going to like me. If we can just start with common ground. It was that nervousness about, I'm not really sure how this is going to go. So I just put a picture of my family and everybody, like, I got a lot of feedback. Don't do that. Who do you think you are? This is unprofessional, And I'm like, look,
I love it already.
I am trying to not control, but I'm trying to influence the way the conversation
100%.
begins.
Yeah.
Because once we begin, after that, I'm fine. But the beginning is hard. And so the first time I had to meet with someone, it was a person from Italy that came over to the United States, going to do a new job. And he was a lot older than me, had a real heavy accent. And he saw that picture and right away, he starts talking about his grandkids because I have 4 kids. So, and I put a little underneath our picture, I put like a little thing of a airplane, a camper, a boat, things we like to do, just a little visual. And I mean, I sat down, I just felt so comfortable. We talked about kids and then it was like half of our conversation was just literally talking about the things that connect us as people.
That's
Common ground.
genius.
It is. I'll never use, look, never ever use a regular, but also don't put a picture of yourself.
Right.
Like that's a little sketchy too. But like put something that you want to, if when I sit down and hand you my resume, I am hoping that the first thing we talk about is whatever that
Yeah.
image is that I put in the top. And I
Yeah.
put that in color, everything else, and it has just
Man.
been, for me, it has changed everything. Because once we start talking, I'm confident
Yeah.
and I have a lot of experience and I try hard all the time. So like I know you're not gonna tell me I'm, a bad employee or
Your
anything.
hands haven't shook for over an hour.
Yes, and they were, weren't they, when
They
I
were.
started?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
oh my God. But see, if we, when I, that made it, just doing that made it
Yeah.
completely different. And a book I was reading called The 7 Levels of
You're
Communication.
freaking reading my mind because I was like in my head, I'm making lists as I listen to
Look,
conversations.
I
As I
brought
listen to
my
folks.
computer because I have all these PowerPoints
That's
that I want to
oh
send.
God.
I'm going to send them all to you, okay?
In my head, I was like, "What book are you reading? What are you
Oh,
reading right now?"
okay, that's funny. So I'm teaching. We teach this one called 7 Levels of Communication, and you'll really appreciate it because it's written by a sales. It's about sales, but
Are you pigeonholing me?
no, you'll just be
I
able to relate.
really will like it. I just wanted
You
to ask that
will.
question.
No, but see, so I read it, and I know they're talking about sales, and he's talking about realtors and referrals and stuff like that. Okay, but I understand that as a leader, we're all in sales.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
As a leader, we're in the business of trying to influence
Yeah.
people's behaviors
Yeah.
and attitudes
Mm-hmm.
and the culture. And so I can read that book and not think about that it doesn't apply directly to my job. You know what
Yeah.
I can read it in a more abstract
Yeah.
way. And it says in there, frog, family, recreation, occupation, goals.
Mm.
You meet somebody you've never met before, one of those things you'll have common ground on.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just start the conversation some way to ask, and so I chose family. Hey,
Yeah.
this is my family, tell
Yeah.
me about your family.
Man.
And then my hands aren't shaking. I'm not
Yeah.
nervous. We're common ground. Now we like each other
Yeah.
and we probably trust each other.
You have a mutual respect for
And
one
yeah,
another.
and now I can tell you about all the ideas I have and the things I've accomplished and build your professional respect for me.
I've opened up, so there's the
Yes.
trust.
Yes.
I've connected with you, so there's a respect.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now I'm reading, and it's taken me a while to read this book. It's called The Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown.
Oh, Brene Brown. Yeah.
Oh my, have you read
No,
this
I'm
one?
not. I'm not saying Brene Brown like you did. Pete Balderas. I know who Brene Brown is. I read Brene Brown.
Oh my God.
She is not like Pete Balderas.
Like when you said Balderas, I heard in my head Banderas, like
Oh, man.
Antonio Banderas.
I'm gonna have to find Pete now. I hope Pete's
You have
still
to
around.
introduce me so I can
Yeah.
actually say I do know.
Let's see if I can get him on the podcast.
That's
Pete
so
changed my life.
Oh wow.
I think about the number of people that have impacted me, and the DeVoe family impacted me tremendously.
They got the dealership, the car.
Yeah.
They got quite a dealership in Naples. It's nice.
I don't know if it's the same or not.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
But yeah,
The one's from Marion.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
So Jimmy and Ryan changed my life, and I've said this before, but where my mind was prior to meeting them and being involved with JD Byrider was a very different place than it was when they were done with me.
Mhm.
And that sounds like we're done with you, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
when that chapter ended, I was a very different person professionally.
Yeah.
I was much more confident.
Probably personally too.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The huge impact. Ryan taught me so much about leadership and responsibility within that. And that might be why I carried, So maybe I can blame him at the same time of praising him.
It's all
But
about blame.
he was just and one of the first lessons we went out and had lunch together, and this was when I'm getting my first leadership role, and he talked about how you know my my role as a managing partner, I was responsible for not only the work being done, but for the families that these people
Mm,
these people had at home. It was my job to ensure that I was taking care of them.
yeah.
That if I failed, that
Mm,
that family potentially could fail as well.
mm. It's
Um,
so hard.
and he didn't lay it on me
No,
like
but
that. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think we naturally feel it.
Sure,
And then a hard lesson to learn, well, for me especially lately, but a hard lesson when you're comfortable being a leader and taking responsibility for people and carrying people along the
yeah,
way, um, a hard lesson to learn is that you you don't control their choices,
yeah,
even if you
yeah,
influence them. And so where is the line?
yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard.
I learned uh, I learned this from my experience as a principal. Um, I enjoyed that role, but I also learned I was a really good assistant principal.
hmm Rockstar stuff.
I knew where I needed to be. I
Yeah,
know where my passions
me
are.
too.
I love to serve,
Yeah, me
and I
too.
like to support.
And by
And
example, like
one hundred percent.
if I am not allowed, if we're cleaning up something and I'm not allowed to help, then I am not happy. Well,
Yeah,
I'm just going to help anyways. What's
yeah,
going to happen? But um, yeah, I want to work alongside you,
yeah, I,
not not watch you work.
yeah, yeah. I love being an assistant.
Yeah,
I did not like being a principal.
yeah,
In two very different worlds. I love the idea that um, my person, it was Dan, that Dan could put out an initiative and I could support that.
hmm
And man, I would
yeah,
I
me
would
too.
die on that.
Yeah,
I would die on that line for him
yeah.
to make that
I'm in
happen.
that. I
You know?
When I was in the role of doing some strategic business planning and stuff, I had a role very similar to that,
Yeah.
and I was really good at that, and I
I don't
really loved it.
I don't know that I was willing to die on that same line for myself.
Mm,
I struggled with that.
mm,
I struggled with the things I would put out there. Same types of ideas I would throw at Dan, and Dan would either, pitch
yeah,
or
yeah,
take, and we would run with them. Same types of ideas. But when I pitched them out there, and I would start to question how strong were they? And
yeah,
I didn't know if I was willing to die for my own ideas. And I knew that some of them were seeing through it. And how could they not?
yeah,
These were rock star people I worked with
yeah,
that I had the utmost respect for. And I was like, God, do they believe? Are they picking up what I'm laying down?
yeah.
And then I'd start to question that
Mm.
and not believe it
Some doubt,
myself.
self doubt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that self doubt and that self talk we were talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
So you were talking about how, as a woman, you would question your own self talk and,
yeah.
and your own validity in the position. Boy, I sure as hell
Yeah.
did. And
But I think it's healthy
it is healthy.
because it shows
I-
respect for the job. It shows respect for the people that you're serving.
100%.
But it can turn unhealthy if you're
Yeah.
not careful. You got to really
Yeah.
almost everything's like that.
Yeah.
Like there's healthy and unhealthy versions of everything.
Yep.
This picture of us cheering. So
Mhm.
this was a cheerleading picture from our senior, gosh,
Yeah.
92.
92. That would have been 91 in that picture, I
Yeah.
think. But
Oh, feels like a long time ago. Um, I remember, I don't know if you remember this. So I think it might have been our junior year because I remember we like went to regionals
hmm
basketball. We
hmm
had a big pep session.
Yep.
And when we did the pep session, well, anyway, it doesn't matter if I was junior or senior, but do you remember that big pyramid that we built?
hmm
And I decided I wanted to do the very bottom, like the center bottom. And then there's like three people standing on top,
hmm
Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? I don't know how to describe
Yeah.
it, but um, and I remember like, you're squatting down and you're bracing and people standing on your back and then people
Yeah.
standing on their shoulders and and everybody's like, "Can you do this?" I'm like, "I could do this." I had no idea if I could do it, but I'm like,
Right.
"I could do this.
Right.
I could do this. And then I remember when I actually did it and I was holding, I'm sure. Now let's be real. I was all of like 114 pounds. So
Right.
I'm sure that the men, the boys around were taking a lot of the weight off me, but I felt like, and I got done and I thought, I really did do
I
that.
did it.
I can do anything.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I can do anything because I love to learn and I'm a smart person. I'm curious. I love to learn and I work hard. So I literally can do anything.
Do you think, I'm not sure exactly how to ask, do you think that the, this is a little off topic of that, but the failures, the failures that we encounter, um, bear the fruits of the successes we have?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a loaded question.
No, I'm not afraid to fail.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, I am not.
Yeah.
I am not. Now, there's certain situations when there's a lot on the line that you have a healthy respect for that, and you want to work harder not to fail, maybe because the consequences are harder. But at work,
Yeah.
I am not afraid to fail. I'm not scared that I'll lose my job. And you develop that over time if
Yeah.
you're able to work in an environment where you're safe to make
Yeah.
mistakes and failures. And I try to create that environment. It's really important to me. I hope. I think that my team would say that I create that. It's okay to
Yeah.
fail, because it's not it's not okay if you fail and then that's the end.
Yeah.
But if you fail and then you learn something
You
and you
grow.
change something and you behave you try something different, you try again, then
Yeah.
that's the only way to fail. Nobody gets all the way up to the top, just success after success.
Yeah.
But yeah, I sometimes I think, look, nobody, if there's somebody out there who could do this better than me, let's bring them in.
Do you think there's a culture change going on with that? Do you think we're starting to recognize the importance of failures?
Yes.
Because I wonder, I've wondered this for a long time. You think about generationally,
Mm-hmm.
we were raised in a time where there was no option to show weakness.
Right.
You know, you're talking
You
about
should be ashamed of
right.
failures.
Yeah, and you were talking about being the base on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
pyramid and how you didn't want to show any kind of fear of I
Right.
can't do it or I won't be successful or whatever.
Well, if I was afraid, I certainly wouldn't be the girl that's going to get on top of the girl that's standing on top of my
Right?
back. Like, no way.
We were raised in a culture that did not celebrate failure at all.
Right.
You know, you either won or you didn't. You know, tear down that wall.
Second is the first loser.
Second's the first loser. You know, who remembers the runner up? No one remembers the runner up. You know, that type of talk.
It's
And
so true.
boy, I remember a couple runner ups. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they were close to us. You know, Erica
Erica.
Wyckoff certainly comes to mind.
Her
And-
podcast was awesome.
Oh
too.
my God, she's a killer. Uh, But I think about those girls and how close they came, and you know,
Yeah.
Laura and Summer and Erica and
Yeah.
and was it Jenny
Yeah.
um,
Phillips.
Jenny Phillips?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there might have been a couple others I'm forgetting in there. I'm so sorry, but you know, they were successful in their failure,
Yeah.
and I think there's got to be we've had a revolution of sorts when it comes to that where you know it's not a well, made all the way there but you didn't win it, nobody remembers second place first loser, better go back and work
Yeah.
harder. Well,
No,
yeah,
you're
you
right.
go back and work
Even-
harder. Yeah.
Even in our industry, that's continuous improvement. Like it's never enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never good,
And
good
there's a lot
enough.
of power in that.
It's never cheap enough. You didn't do it fast enough. I mean, always. This is
Yeah.
the world of advanced manufacture, and it's also an addictive
It's the world we
sport
live in.
sport you could play. And yeah,
It certainly
like
is. I mean,
we just this last year, um, at the highest levels, we started instead of when we report out our metrics and our results. Of course, we have a target, we have what was forecast, and then we have our actual. But we started reporting that monthly. When you report the monthly, okay, I didn't make the target. Used to just be red.
mm,
That was it.
hmm yeah,
That was it. It was just
yeah.
red,
Do
and
you
you're
guys have data walls?
oh, have I
Oh,
got some data balls for you. This is why I love my. I'm a data geek. Remember, I love it there. But like now, we have instead of just having red or green, now we have an orange that says, "Look, I didn't make the target, but I'm better than last month or
okay.
this month last year."
Okay.
And I think that is an indicator
Yeah.
that we are shifting because it isn't just you suck or you failed.
Yeah.
We still need to acknowledge that we made improvement. Okay, we haven't met the target yet. Like
So true.
running, okay? I don't know what it's called. I don't know if it's really jogging. It's not walking. It's certainly not running. I call it running just to sound good, but it's not
It's
really
probably
what I'm
very similar to what I do.
jogging or something. Yeah. But like
I'll pass people that are walking
yes.
as long as they're not walking really fast.
Yes, some people.
Speed walkers.
Yeah, I used to have a friend who would walk an 8-minute mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I'm not passing her
No.
running. Yeah.
No.
So, but anyway, you don't just say, okay, I want to run a 5-minute mile.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, that's my ultimate goal,
Yep.
but I have to set some milestones and I have to acknowledge, okay, I didn't make it to my original target, but I am better than I started
hmm
because otherwise you have zero motivation to even continue.
Absolutely.
So I think that in our company and probably outside of our company too, we've done some things with wellness that acknowledge, and I don't mean this like it's a failure, but we used to not talk about things that weren't the norm. I mean,
hmm
you if you weren't exactly like this norm that's set up, then you were different, and you don't talk about that.
hmm
You don't talk about your mistakes or your failures, but now we're much more we're much safer being vulnerable. We're much
Yeah.
safer saying I come to work and I mean I'm very open with my team. Like that's just how I am. I can come to work and I can say I'm having a really hard day.
Right.
I used to
Right.
say, look, I should be wearing caution tape.
Right.
So you wanna
Yeah.
talk to me, take your chances. But now I can say, um, or something can happen unexpectedly, and I can walk in. I could start crying, and their first reaction is to comfort and be there for me. And
hmm
like, but it's a completely safe environment to be whatever you are. Like, because we're not machines.
Right. Sadly, I used to use that as a tactic when I was disciplining kids.
Crying.
No,
Oh.
no, kids would come into my office
Mm-hmm.
or somebody would bring them into my office, and I would say, "I'm just going to give you a heads up. Today's probably not the day to
You.
mess around in here. I'm not having a good one.
Who
I
hasn't
wanna-
said that to their
I want to
kids?
give you a warning ahead of time that
If you were planning on lying some bullshit to
Yeah.
me, don't do it.
yeah, and hey, sorry, Mr. Schick, anything I can do to make it better? Listen, we're not talking about me.
Oh my God.
I was
You're so believable. You have that
tactic.
down.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty good. I could get in the hallway. You were talking about, somebody seeing you and thinking
Yeah.
you're pissed off.
Yeah.
And you're like, "No, I'm not mad. I've got,
Thinking.
RBF, what?"
Yes, I did.
I would go out in the hallway and I would put it on and I'd just go down the hall.
Walk really fast. If you walk really fast with your head, like not down, but not looking people in the eye, like clearly
Yep.
I am not connecting with you.
Oh,
I
no.
can't think like,
A little bit shoulder,
and you walk fast.
flex out a little bit.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
I mean, it literally go from
You're communicating.
I'm moving. It's that nonverbal.
Yeah.
I talk to kids about nonverbal all the time. I love that you brought up nonverbal.
Yeah.
So I think it's such a critical piece.
It's like 85%
Yeah,
of the
it's
full
so much.
communication that's received
And
is
it's innate.
nonverbal.
It's part of our nature because
It's like texting.
before we had words to speak and we were ugging and ooging, not Tony Ugan.
Ugin. I know. I thought of Tony too.
Well, when you were talking about walking down the hallway, or like at work with your head down and
You're
scowling,
thinking of Tony.
all I can think of was Tony walking down the hall, and Tony knows that he has the
Yes,
Tony.
RBF.
Yeah, it's resting Tony face. I would put on Tony face purposefully at times, and he had even told me, he's like, I know I have Tony face going on, you know. And I just walk and I don't look up and
Yeah.
don't do
Well,
that.
he's probably thinking.
He knew.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's
he was.
I'm
He
always
was just,
thinking.
I have shit to do.
Yeah.
That's what it was. But I think we have done such a good job. It's our generation that has turned that. I truly believe that. I'm not just giving it to Gen
Yeah.
X, but I truly believe we have done a really nice job of turning that corner and understanding that there's more to it than wins and losses.
And it's okay not to be okay
It's okay
every
not to be
day.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
okay if you don't run your fastest time every day.
Right.
My kids are way better at it even
Oh,
than us. But I
man.
agree with you that like I sensed
Yeah.
in my life
Yeah.
I've sensed a shift
Yeah.
to being more okay.
And I felt it when I was younger. I really did. I
Oh,
really
yeah.
felt like when I was younger, maybe that's why I was so, I had some angst towards my dad,
Mhm.
because if I didn't win, he wasn't happy.
Mm.
I got in a fight a couple times, and if I came home and if it wasn't a W,
Really?
oh man,
I didn't have that. Even you would think, my
Yeah.
dad coaching, but no, I
you
don't.
never got
At
that
least
way
I
when I
don't
was playing
remember
football
that.
or sports. But when it
Oh.
came to that type of thing,
Oh,
grades,
oh,
yeah,
hey, I'll never forget the only B plus I ever got in high school. Jack Norton, first semester freshman year,
Man.
algebra.
Jack,
Jack Norton. Now he's my dad's neighbor. I'm gonna have toilet paper his house or something. Like, literally, B plus,
guy.
only one
Ever?
in high school.
You're such a nerd.
I know it changed in college.
You're such a nerd.
My
So-
daughter, her first semester, my daughter Abby at University of Louisville, majoring in psychology, loved it,
Mhm.
straight A's, and an A plus her first semester of college. I was like, girl, I got a little outside of my disciplined studying when I went to college.
So there's a thing. So you're an educator now. There's a thing called zone of proximal development, and it's that place where we're uncomfortable in our learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I firmly believe that A's, straight A's, do not put you in that zone of proximal development and allow you to be uncomfortable. That B plus made you uncomfortable,
Oh,
right?
it did.
It pushed you.
It did.
And for me, it was, and I just saw Mrs. Trees a
Oh
few
my
weeks ago.
gosh, really?
It was her trig class.
Trigonometry.
I got my first D ever. I'd had B's, never a C, never. I
Yeah.
had A's and B's. I got a D in her, and it was a D minus in her trig class, and it might have been first semester, sophomore year. Would that have been? No, because it's after algebra 2, so junior year, and I was freaking out because I thought, I'm dead.
Oh my gosh,
I'm dead. I'm gonna
I
die.
would. Yeah, I would have.
D is for death,
Yes,
and
I would
it's
have
a
been
minus, so it's negative. It's even worse than death.
double death.
Yeah, I, I owned it, and she said, "Did you get that grade up?" I said, "Yeah, I did." I went home, like I worked that next, but I told her, I said, you're to blame for my first D ever.
Like me blaming
Yeah.
Mr. Norton
Yeah.
for my B plus.
When you said that, I was like, "Oh man!" And I said it to her face, though. Have you said it to his face?
No, but I
Oh,
might get the chance.
there's something very reward. Like
Since he's out there by my dad, I might
there's
get the
something
chance.
very, man. It just feels good to say it to their face. It's your fault. I got a D.
Oh,
And she goes, "Oh, was it really my fault?" I said, was it your fault? But I had to say it. I had to say it
oh
out loud.
man. Gosh, it takes some maturity though to get to that.
Oh, sure.
You immediately go to blaming, and then
Yeah,
yeah,
dude. I was thankful. And when I got to college again, I was thankful for those opportunities to grow,
yeah,
to put me in there to where I was like, oh hell no, that ain't happening to me.
yeah.
Not now. Not now. I'm not 20. I've got kids on the line. I got my whole family is depending on my success, and there is not going to be a D here.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen, thankfully. But because I knew there was just a next level of Okay. This is real.
And I think that is a key point in leadership because it's okay for me leading, like, depending on your job, you have management responsibilities, manager responsibilities,
Mhm.
and leader
Mhm.
responsibilities. And I don't like the term manager versus leader because if you're a leader, you probably have to manage
Yeah,
things. So you
absolutely.
have to do both, and you need to know which one, which style to
Yep.
use. But like when if you're leading and you have never done the job of the people that you're leading. So you said, you only taught for 5 years.
Mhm.
That stuck in my brain because I was like, "Oh, you should be saying I taught for 5 years
Right.
because you have the experience to understand what their job is like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, what it, you know, and then when you are going to lead them, when you're going to search for, when you're going to make a proposal to improve something and you're going to fight for it, like you have your own experience, you deserve the
Mhm.
right. It's like,
Yeah.
so you got to, you've got to spend some real time. It's like when the guy said, ask them to show you. Okay, it's
Mhm.
not my job to do this maintenance, but I really, can you show me what you do so I can understand? Um, when somebody comes to me, like I do a lot of mentoring, somebody comes to me and they're like, I I'm just exhausted. I'm overwhelmed with my job. I, need help. And I'm like, all I immediately think is, I just need to spend a day with her
Mm.
or him or whatever, because you need that experience. You need that to be able to lead someone, even if you can't walk the walk yourself. Um, you need to get as close experientially. You need to get as close as you
Mhm.
can. We used to when we do tours. Okay, when you know VPs or executives come in and they uh, do operations reviews, and if they're gonna come to our academy and we're gonna present, I would make my team. Let's walk out to the parking lot. Where are they gonna park?
Mm.
Okay, here's where they're going to park, here's where they're going to come in, what are they going to see, like literally walk their steps,
Mhm.
because are they going to see some visuals that are outdated, are they going to see a poster that's been written on or torn, like, because before they ever get to us to hear our story they've already got an
Right.
impression, like,
Right.
so let's walk there. Where are they going to walk? What are they going to see? What does it look like? Should we
Mhm.
rearrange this stuff? You probably think of that with furniture
It's
set up.
branding.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it's like
It's your image.
and the furniture, the way you set a room up
Mhm.
is going to influence how it's used, how
Mm.
people behave. If you put individual desks all separated so that nobody can copy. Okay, listen,
They're
I
not gonna work
need
together.
in advanced manufacturing, I need
Mhm.
people that can come out of that classroom, 6 in a group, and copy the hell out of each other
That's
and
right.
work as a team.
That's right. You need dry erase board
Oh,
on desktops.
listen,
Do you have that?
no, but
I sell that. Just putting that out there. Let me get you my card.
look, I'm going to show you one of the best presents. People know you. Okay, one of my interns, she bought me this for
Oh,
Christmas.
that's so good. I see it says notebook. That's all I can see.
Uh-huh. Wait till you see this. Okay, people can't see what I'm doing, but I'm
Oh my god.
I'm getting out
That's
this
so
accordion
hilarious.
dry erase board that is
Oh
literally
my
like
god,
4 feet.
it's got your
I've
it's
written
all
on it. Yeah.
gridded.
Oh look, this is my day. Oh look, this is day in the life assignment.
That's hilarious.
And I carry it around
So
with me.
good.
It's laminated. It's like literally like
It
laminated
is.
index cards all put together to make
And
this,
and it's all in a grid. It's like one
and
inch grid.
folds up, and it's like the size of an index card when it's all folded up, and
That's hilarious.
it comes with a dry erase marker and
Does
the
it have a little
carrying
eraser?
the
Oh,
carrying
the
case.
carrier is the eraser.
And I was like, oh, this girl is in my brain. She knows me. Shout out to Olivia.
I'm sorry. I typically don't check my phone, but when I'm getting a text at 8 o'clock, it's probably
Oh my God, it's 8.
it's 8 o'clock.
Told you we could talk forever.
Oh, it's something for my daughter.
Oh,
It was a picture of her kitchen. So
Oh,
she,
nice.
so my girls lived together over
I love that.
over on Bethel for the past couple
Yeah.
years, and my youngest daughter moved out. She is living with her boyfriend, who's a teacher over in Kokomo, by the way. Um, he's a seventh grade social studies teacher. I said, God, did I make it look so glamorous that and then my oldest,
What I
her
want to be when I grow up.
yeah, her boyfriend also works as a teacher at a charter school over in Muncie
Oh,
as
cool.
he's trying to get his licensure. And I'm like, really? Really? It wasn't that glamorous.
Yeah.
Teaching isn't that glamorous, but boy, they're great guys, and
Yeah.
they treat my girls right, and that's all I care about.
That's good.
I just let them know, take care of my girls. You take care of my girls, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think of college. So I started double majoring chemistry and education.
And I thought it was interesting. You are now an educator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even went, I knew I couldn't get both majors in 4 years.
Yeah.
So after my sophomore year, I even went to Ball State for summer to do some summer classes while I was home for the summer working. And then at one point, it became to where, look, it's going to take me like a whole nother year to be
Yeah.
able to get both because they're in different
Yep.
categories. So I remember thinking I have to decide which one I want to do. Well, I really love to teach, but I don't want to make no money. I want to make money.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
um,
We have a
Yeah.
lifestyle we'd like to have.
yeah, and I'm willing. I know I'm expensive, and I'm
Yeah.
willing to work.
That's right.
For it. But like, so I picked chemistry because I was like, I don't want to be poor. I love teaching, but I just don't want to struggle like that.
Yeah.
So I go into chemistry, and it wasn't very long. Yeah, and it's funny now. Here I am. I run the academy. I mean, I pitched the whole business case
so
to
good.
build an academy in
So
Indiana. I got the money. Yeah. And so here I am, and I love the teaching part, but
Yeah.
I love the serving, the helping, the growing, the
Yeah.
mentoring. I don't need to be the CEO. I don't need to be the VP because you can't help as many people there.
Yeah.
I want to be the helper, the cheerleader, the teacher, the mentor,
To have those
I want to float
relationships.
my ideas
Yeah.
of
Oh man.
strategy all the time. That's why I carry that because I think out loud. I think out loud verbally. So sometimes I have to tell my team, "Hey, okay, stop. I'm thinking out loud here. So don't run off and do whatever I say. Just let's just have some time to talk out loud, think out loud." Or drawing. Like I got whiteboards everywhere and I draw stuff I was just sketching stuff out because I'm a very visual thinker.
Yeah.
Like thinking about the
absolutely.
guy rolling the
Yeah.
boulder uphill.
Can you see that in your head when I
Yes.
say it?
Oh,
I
yeah.
can too. It's like I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
help but see those
Yeah.
images.
Yeah, I'm very visual thinker. And so I can't draw worth a lick,
Yeah.
but I wish I could
Yeah,
because
me too.
I have images.
Me too.
I have so many images in my mind that I want to be able to get out, but yeah, I can't draw, so I have to figure that out. But yeah, so I carry that around. We draw on whiteboards all the time. I have a pile of scrap paper on my desk because I'm always thinking in a different way. I'm always creating.
Yeah.
Very, very a lot of creative.
One question.
Yeah.
So looking back through 29 years of career, any regrets in there that stand out? Because I know we've already talked about the failures. We've talked about those things.
Yeah, and you've
trying
talked
to-
about regrets. Yeah, it's hard. That word is hard for me because like even if I had something that I wouldn't have done, I don't necessarily consider it a regret.
Yeah.
But thinking like that, I wish that I would have. I wish that I would have spoken up. Wish that I would have had the courage earlier on to speak up for myself because sometimes, and this is not a men and women thing. This is just,
Sure.
world. But people are competitive. Like it's so interesting when we do this stuff in school. I see third grade and fourth grade, and they just can't help but cheer each other on.
Mm-hmm.
And then fifth grade, they start being able to like think analytically and solve problems. And now all of a sudden they're noticing the differences between people, and they see who's last or better or worse. And then by the time they're in high school, dude, they're competing. I mean, it's me versus you
Right.
right now, always.
The term for that is the dawn of self-awareness.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
It's the dawning of
Yeah,
identity. It's the
yeah,
dawning of self, and
yeah.
realizing that
And so,
you are an individual. It's biological and it is evolutionary,
wow,
because we realize we're going to mate eventually. We're going to produce,
yeah.
and
Or survival of the
that
fittest. You're
is
gonna,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, like when you're in an environment, for me, it was where there wasn't very many women.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in that environment, I mean, almost always for years, even still, it'll in the room, it'll be me and 15 men, or so
Sure.
all the time I'm the only girl in the room, or maybe there's one or two, or like especially if I'd go up to headquarters and work, and then walk in and there's like one other woman and there's a group of 20 people in there that two people,
Yeah.
and there's a woman that you don't know, and your instant default for me was competition. Like we're the only two girls in here, but it was like
Mm.
it was like this. I don't know if competition is the right word, but we were immediately facing off. Like you can feel it. I mean, it wasn't
No, I totally
open like
get
we're
it.
fighting, but
I see it.
and it was so uncomfortable. And then after a while, I was like, this is stupid. Like we're the only two girls in the room. We should be we should be like bonding with each
Aligned.
other. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like when I'd go to parties or like Christmas parties or something, well, it's all these guys and then their wives, and then there's this girl
Right.
coming in, and it's like an adversarial. So there was
Mm.
these moments of just uh, uncomfortable, I guess. And I finally got the courage to be like, screw that. The next time I go into a room and there's another girl in there and I don't know her, I'm just going to, as soon as I walk in, I'm going to make a beeline. I'm making eye contact with her and I'm making a beeline
I so love it.
to her.
Yeah.
And I am shaking her hand. I'm saying, hey, my name's Lori. I'm so glad
Yeah.
there is another woman in this room. You
That's
don't know
so
how
good.
happy I am. And immediately you see that, what is that? That
Yeah.
adversarial thing just
Yeah.
melt away. And they are every 100% of the time. They're like, oh, I'm so glad you came over here. I'm so glad. Hey, do you know this person? Okay, I know these people. You know these people. And I wish that I would have done that sooner. I wish that I would have, and not just women to women, but just like I don't know, someone in the minority of a group. I wish I would have just broken that ice immediately, sooner. Young, when I was younger, wish I would have had the courage to do that sooner.
Hmm. That's a growth.
Yeah,
That's an age and growth thing.
yeah,
Absolutely. Uh, as you were telling that story and explaining that, I can see it in my head,
yeah,
like we were
yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
But it made me reflect back to the number of times I've walked into a room, and as a bigger guy,
Mm,
I very quickly I'm like, "There's the other big dude,"
really?
and yeah, and it's always been that way. No matter where I've gone, where I've been, what environment, I've always went to the other big dude and been like, "That's my new friend." There was a guy named Tony Roush.
So you have something in common. See, you're looking for that common
Well, and
ground real quick.
same thing though.
Yeah,
You guys have
yeah.
something in common, and for us, there's a lot of guys in the room, and I'm like, "All right, that guy, that's
Okay.
my guy." And I remember early on, I can remember very early on, I was at a party and there was a guy named Tony Roush. He was from Eastbrook and he was at Ball State. He was a wrestler and football player and big dude. I mean, he was like a big dude. I was not a big dude compared to this big dude. And,
There's big dudes, and
but
then
I
there's the big,
remember seeing him at a party and instantly that's who I'm talking to. I could be, I was at the,
like a kindred spirit. You can
yeah.
just feel it. Yeah.
So And it's now that made me think of another time. Jennifer had taken me to Indianapolis for my birthday, and we went to the piano bar down there. I can't think of the name
Oh
of
yeah, yeah.
it. Howl at the Moon,
Yes.
and I had a great time that night. Um, Ended up
That's
on
usually
stage.
pretty
I
fun.
was on stage that night, uh, but we left out of there and we went and got pizza. While we're waiting on our pizza, I think maybe she had went to the restroom or something, and I'm out in the middle of a courtyard, in between like buildings, almost like an alley or a street. I look over and there's some dude sitting at a restaurant, and I just kind of look over and I'm like, "You're my guy," and I just go over and start talking to him.
Really? See, and that's natural for you.
It's
And
very easy for me.
that's what I wish I would have been intentional
Yeah.
about earlier.
Yeah.
So that it just brings it back. You have to learn what's natural for you
Yeah.
and what needs to be intentional for you. And that is from a leadership perspective, that is something I wish I would have done because and then having the confidence to self-talk myself before I go into a meeting, ask myself, why do I deserve to be a part of this conversation?
Sure.
Why do I deserve to be a part of this decision? And reminding myself, not questioning, but reminding myself that I do deserve. I deserve to be there. I can take up some space here. I can sit at the table, and I deserve this chair just like someone else.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and I don't know again if it's a woman thing, but for some, it's like okay, in our environment, maybe it's like, okay, you shouldn't sit at the head table. I'm like, oh no, I've been told that before.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, you
Oh,
can't sit there.
wow.
You got to sit along the wall. And I'm like, in this meeting, I don't because we're going to make a decision based on the information that I have. So I'm not going to sit on the back wall while I do it. But, it was another woman that told me that. And I think that was like some competition, you know, but,
Oof.
but I do take up for real it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man or anything, when you deserve the right, you need to take up some
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
sit at the table, contribute your ideas,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to throw something out there that's kind of crazy
Out
or
of the norm.
yeah
I'm with you.
but I'll say that you do have to be aware of your surroundings because if you're in a company or in a meeting that look, we're not here to open ideas, we're here to check these off.
Yeah.
We're not open for your suggestions. You have to have some awareness,
Yeah.
but and you have to be in an environment that is welcoming. But usually for me, if I have a question, because I've been there long enough, I've done a lot of jobs. So if somebody's talking about something and I don't know what it is, then I'm like, probably somebody else in the room doesn't know what it is, but they don't have the courage to admit or ask that they don't know. So I will just say, I'll be the one to say, hey, what is this? I forget what this is. That's usually what I say. I forget. And then somebody else will say, yeah, I never heard of that. And then they're all like, oh yeah, I don't know. And then the person talking is like, actually, I don't know what that stands for. Oh,
It was something
okay.
as a teacher I learned that I had to be better at recognizing that I was assuming knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And when you assume knowledge of another, you are missing so many opportunities. And I became
Yeah.
cognizant. I had students tell me, Mr. Schick, we don't understand. Oh, you don't know what that is? And I didn't say it in a
Yeah.
condescending way, because you can say that in a very condescending way, uh, and it blows up your relationship,
Yeah.
especially in a room of 30 where you have 30 different people taking it 30 different
Yeah.
ways from the person that's in charge. And I would just ask, oh, I'm sorry. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Is there anybody that doesn't understand? Because I want to take the time to make sure you get it so we can move on. And once I started doing that, it became very natural
Yeah.
to just stop.
When they knew you weren't judging them for it, you
100%.
genuinely
Yeah.
want to know.
Yeah. Hey, everybody on
Yeah.
the same page here? Because if not, it's okay. I know I get it. I want to make sure y'all get it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's been a key strategy for me. Some people call it, I don't like the term playing dumb.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
No,
Because I don't want you to pretend like you're
Nope.
dumb. But the strategy is to ask questions.
Yeah.
So especially when I don't agree with the way the conversation or the decision that's happening, or
Yeah.
the group dynamic is going, and I have a real uh, you know, foundational issue with a decision that's going to be made. Like, it's if I just speak out negatively against it, then now we're against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that we need to make this decision together. And I don't want you to be against me. I want you to hear me,
Right.
and I want to hear you. And so if you ask a question instead, so people think of it like playing dumb, but I hate that. Just ask a question.
Yeah.
And then if you're good at asking the right question, you can completely change the conversation.
Isn't that just that's it right there?
Completely.
You just hit it when you said ask the right question.
Yeah.
Because we ask the wrong questions so just too often.
Or that's the way you handle assumptions. Like,
Yeah.
if people are not using data to describe a quantitative analysis, if they're saying every or
Yeah.
most people or all of them, or they don't,
Everything.
who's they,
Always.
Yeah. So if you ask the question, how many people missed this question on a test, or
Yeah.
how many people didn't show up for work on this day,
Right.
or how many, if you ask for a number, a question that requires a data answer, then you diffuse the emotion, and you can kind of adjust the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to, as you were talking about that, your hands were up, and all I could see was clouds, and I could think of the climate
Yeah,
of the room.
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're on the same
It's so
vibe
weird.
here.
So weird. Man, we have covered a lot of ground.
I know.
And
I could talk all.
I am trying to keep this to where I don't break them into part one, part twos. And to do that, I try and keep it under 3 hours.
Oh gosh.
Remember when I told you early, there's going to be an hour go by, and you're going to be like, that's been an hour. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, how much is
I know.
valuable?
All of it is. And Jennifer called, and I don't know if she's.
Oh, you better.
So I text her back, and I said, "Hey, if you're home, just come on up."
Oh, I would love to.
I'm gonna call her back. So we're gonna call it.
Okay.
Man, we got more to talk about.
We do. I made a list. You know me. I made a list. I'm going to text it to you.
So here's something to think about. I've been thinking about doing a leadership series where it's focused.
My love language.
Focused on specific topics, so we can really get in the weeds on specific pieces of leadership.
Yeah, I love that. We do a lot. We've done a lot of those leadership series.
Yeah,
at our.
We've covered a lot of ground. We've glanced over.
Yeah,
and we really have.
We haven't
have not gone
in
in
deep
depth
in anything. We just.
But I really think I want to do something deeper, and I've been thinking about how to do that, and part of that is I'd like to do a leadership series of, let's say, 7 podcasts of these 7 components of leadership, and bring in those, reach out to some folks that are in leadership positions and say, which one of these do you feel you deserve?
Yeah.
Or do you feel,
I've got some fantastic
what I mean?
for you.
So I would love to be able to do that, and then just put together a series of them, hour long, hour and a half, not go too long to where it's like, God, I can't finish that on my way to work this week.
Yeah.
Some of them get hard to finish in the week for some folks, and they're like, God, I got to spend my lunch break. Listen to these.
I gotta
people.
run. Gotta run 3 miles to finish this.
If you're open to that,
Yes.
I want to reach out to you and see if we can come up with, some components that would go well together. And
This is my wheelhouse.
I like it. We're gonna work together.
Creating, and I have a lot of, J.D. Collins. My dad's best.
Absolutely.
He's been a really important leadership mentor for me. In fact, he came and did a series at our place, and his message was absorb chaos, create calm, provide hope.
I wrote it down in my car. I wrote it down. He was talking about it on a podcast.
I went to a meeting yesterday at the plant, and the plant manager pulls his laptop out, opens it up, and there's a sticker on the top, and it says absorb chaos, create calm, provide hope. And I was like, JD's a superstar.
That's so good. That's in my truck.
Yes.
It's right there.
There's some really we had Matt Painter over,
Oh, nice.
Bill Lynch.
Yeah.
There's a lot of leader. I'm a sports person,
Yeah.
so I can really relate to the sporting analogies. But I would love to help you with that.
Awesome. That's
Love
what
it.
we're going to do. We have marching orders.
Okay.
Everybody, thanks for listening in. Man,
Thank you.
I
Thank you for
can't.
asking me. I'm such a super fan. Really, I am. I'm a God, I can't remember.
You're a shickhead.
Head.
You're a shickhead. Yeah.
Shithead.
Shickhead.
Shickhead.
For the Shick Show,
A get shicker done person.
Oh, man, that's good. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening in.